Welcome to What Not to Do. I'm Kyle Schmitz, and this is episode 30. I've got Luis Johannes with me here, CEO and co-founder of Merivox, and today we marvel at the sheer odds of you even being here today. Wow, if you're listening to this right now, you're here with a purpose and for a purpose. So let's get clear on that purpose. You're going to love this conversation. Hold tight. We'll be right back. All right, you want to know why? Well, I'll tell you why. My why is to use my presence and my pros to inspire you to go all in on you so that you live a legacy worth leaving. Again, to use my presence and my pros to inspire you to go all in on you so that you live a legacy worth leaving. And I want to inspire 1 billion people to live a legacy worth leaving by 2030. That's 10 years. That's 100 million people per year. So let's go. Join me in this mission to help equip the world for success and inspire 1 billion people to live a legacy worth leaving.
All right. It is bright and early on a Wednesday morning at the time of this recording, at least. And I am at Copper State. I am with Luis Johannes. He's not a native to Wisconsin. He hails from Laredo, Texas, right?
That's correct.
Some reason that we won't get into on this podcast because it's not appropriate. Made his way all the way north, right?
Yep.
Found himself in Watoma, Wisconsin, 40 miles west of Oshkosh. And now migrated to my hometown of Green Bay, Wisconsin, unannounced to me. He didn't ask me if he could. He just showed up.
I just moved in.
But Luis is doing some awesome things. He is the CEO and co-founder of Merivox, which is solving some awesome problems. We're getting to that in just a little bit. But man, thanks for joining me. This is awesome.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah. What are you drinking?
I'll be honest with you. It's all I remember is Caramel. I made it through a couple of drinks. So.
Is it the Rocky?
Yeah, the Rocchiato, the caramel Rocchiato. Yeah, it's really good.
A little play on the macchiato.
Yep. Yeah, I love sweet drinks. So I mean, it seemed to have quite a bit. So
yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
keeps the beard thick. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah. I'm working on it.
Yeah. And I've got a Breve latte. It's, I don't know. I'm a black coffee guy. I love Americanos. But every once in a while, I've been on a Breve kick for a little bit. I don't know. Just the more fat, the better. It's great.
See, with me, I wasn't a coffee drinker early on, and the more I could make it taste like something else. So I would add sugar, I would add creamer, flavored creamer, you name it. But yeah, I'm getting diversified in the coffee drinks.
Yeah, I remember in college, I thought I kind of had this man, I would look really cool if I was walking around with a cappuccino.
Yeah.
And so it'd be you just start out with like kind of the gas station cappuccino.
Yep.
Type of thing,
Same here.
And then it kind of got a little sweet. So I was like, well, let's just do a fourth, black coffee, 3/4 gas station cappuccino, right?
Yeah.
And then I got a little sweet, so I was like, all right, let's go. Half black coffee, half gas station cappuccino. And then I finally worked my way backwards to black coffee. It's just great, so
I started a little similar. I did the gas station cappuccino, and then I would mix half of the cappuccino and then half hot chocolate, right? So I was taking baby steps into it, trying it out, throw a little hint of coffee. So
what was your go-to flavor?
Oh man, so I always go to white chocolate mocha, just very basic. Yeah, people used to make fun of me. We go to Starbucks in college, and they're ordering these fancy drinks. I'm like, well, what is that? I don't know. I'm pretty new to this, but I was too afraid to ask, right? Yeah. So I just go white chocolate mocha, and all their heads have turned. Really?
That's a sweet drink.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, once upon a time, as I joke around, I've had more jobs than birthdays in my life.
Yeah.
Which is fun. And one of those was a barista at Starbucks.
Oh,
have you seen the movie Father-in-Law with Pauly Shore?
Yes. Oh my gosh.
So where he talks about I majored in that for a semester. I majored in that for a semester. I majored in that. It's I feel like that's my life. I majored in that for a semester. I majored in that for a semester.
I dabbled.
Yeah, I dabbled. But man, fun times working as a barista. And,
cool.
Yeah, white chocolate mocha. That's a sweet drink, but it's good.
Yeah,
it's
it is.
Good.
Yeah, I got a little bit of a sweet tooth. That's why I always have, water as well too.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now, do you drink coffee like for the pick me up, or you just like the flavor of it, or?
No, I'll be honest with you. Caffeine doesn't do a whole lot to me anymore.
Yeah.
Don't know where along the lines like that happened, but no, yeah, I just.
Yeah, somewhere between Texas and Guatemala, right?
Right. Yeah, it disappeared.
Hey, I mean, that's the same for me. I mean, we grew up. My great grandmother's nickname was Poe on my mom's side, and she would put quite a bit of cream and sugar in her coffee. So when we were real little, we would make what she called Poe coffee, which is like a bunch of cream and a bunch of sugar with like a splash of coffee, right?
Oh, yeah.
And we were like little kids, and we loved it. And we actually do the same. We
awesome.
do the same for our kids now. It's a blast. But I've been drinking coffee.
So you're the kitty cocktail of coffee drinks.
Pretty much. And but yeah, same thing. I could drink a pot of coffee before bed and sleep like a baby.
Nothing, right?
My guess is that the clock is ticking. That's not going to be a forever thing. But,
yeah, that's what I've heard from others.
Yeah. It's wearing off, or maybe I just we have this super DNA, super strand of like. Yeah, we're just gonna take over the world. Caffeine doesn't affect.
Hey, cheers to that.
Cheers.
All right.
What's that condition like where people don't feel pain?
I don't know what it's called, but I know what you're talking
Or
about.
if that's even a real thing. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're just immune to it.
It's called being drunk.
Right. It's called a good time.
Oh man, cool. Well, okay. So one thing I love about these things, Kyle style.
Yeah.
We connected on LinkedIn, which is awesome.
Yep.
We have no idea who really either one of us is, which is cool.
Right. Yeah, I just snuck into Green Bay, so
I should clarify. We know ourselves, but we don't know each other, right?
Yep.
And which is cool. So we've been chatting a little bit off air, which has been a blast.
Yeah.
I'm going to guess that aside from the people that you've shared this with your network, our listeners probably have no idea who you are. What you do. So,
sure.
Man, who is Luis Johannes? What do you have to do? I already kind of, tipped the hand on where you come from and hail from. But man, who are you? What do you love to do?
Yeah,
who is Luis?
So there's a lot that I love to do. Unfortunately, you don't have enough time in the day to do everything, right?
Right.
So early on, I learned that you really had to prioritize your time. Last night I ended up spending way too much time, checking out a couple of Twitch streams. Some of my friends that like to stream from, the WoW days or World of Warcraft days.
Yeah.
They still do that stuff. But, prioritizing your day, that's something that, you definitely have to learn early on. But when it comes down to what I like to do, I like to learn.
Yeah.
I like to educate. I like to talk to people about emerging technology. That's what led me into the business that I do now. But when it comes down to where do I spend most of my time as well, education, like I mentioned, in terms of reaching out to the communities, the forums, stuff like that. Spend a lot of time talking to people because it seems like there's so much disinformation that I need to be that positivity, the good word, being spread in terms of, almost like you here, what not to do, what to do, that kind of stuff as well too. So
you mean not everything online is legitimate?
Yeah, right. Yeah, and unfortunately, in the IT space as well, in the telecom community too, it's the same thing. There's so much disinformation out there, and a lot of older technology and a lot of older ways of thinking that are just so outdated to the point that it causes harm, or it's doing things that really it shouldn't be in terms of where businesses are going, but also in the personal life of people.
Yeah.
So I do a lot of research, and that will go into what I used to do as well too, and I've always loved to do that. But other than the education piece, learn about the technology, stuff like that. Spend a lot of time with my girlfriend. She has cystic fibrosis,
Okay.
So we do spend a lot of time doing meds, stuff like that as well too. So when it comes down to prioritizing time, I have the business time, then I have family time, of course, with her, and then get into the other things that I like to do. So,
That's awesome. How long have you guys been dating?
Going on almost 4 years now.
That's awesome.
So,
very, very cool.
Yeah. So we bought a house in Green Bay.
Exciting.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, she hails from Seymour. So
or a West Sider?
West Sider.
Nice.
Yeah,
Love it.
I'm still learning a little bit of the differences because I get asked, "Hey, can you go over here?" or whatever else, or meet me over here. I'm like, I don't know where that is, because they'll say, hey, meet me on the east side. I'm like, I don't know where that is. And then somebody has said, well, you just look at a map and you see the river, and it's like you're on this side or on that side or whatever. And
meet me on the east side. What, are you crazy?
Yeah, right. It's far away. My girlfriend said it's like,
I go to the east side. It's so funny for our listeners that aren't from the area. There is this kind of weird dynamic of east side, west side.
Okay.
I've been a lifelong west sider, 5th generation west sider, or at least my kids are.
Yeah.
And funny enough, my parents recently decided to pick up and sell their house and move to the east side. I don't know why.
Yeah.
You don't do that though. You know, in Green Bay,
right?
You don't move from the west side to the east side.
Yep. That's what I've heard. Yeah.
So anyway, it's just a fun dynamic. I don't know, a cultural thing or whatever, but like growing up, I had, I knew the west side like the back of my hand.
Okay.
But the east
Not
side.
the east side.
And it's not like Green Bay's a big place. It's like it's small.
No, it's really not.
Something about going across the river, right?
Right, like coming here,
side.
I put on Google Maps coming over, like it's having me do circles around the place. I'm like, where is this? So still getting to know the area.
Our biggest beef today is when we're going to go all the way over to the east side because that's where Costco is, right?
Okay, yeah, that's right.
A whole 20-minute drive away.
Yep.
So.
Gotta love Costco.
That's awesome, man. Cool. Yeah, Seymour. That's fun. That's nice.
Yeah, so I learned about Hamburger Fest, the Home of the Hamburger, all that kind of stuff too. The giant ketchup slide, which is pretty amazing. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but it is something to behold.
Have you done it?
I kept talking about it. Yeah.
It's on the bucket list.
Yeah, it's on the bucket list. So I'd like to get maybe a group of people to do it with me. So I think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, I could see maybe eating a giant hamburger, with a couple hundred other people, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Taking a bite next to them, but something about a ketchup slide doesn't really appeal to me.
Yeah.
That's probably what you'd say is not Kyle style.
Yeah, right. I feel like I would hit the beginning part, just like flop down to the ketchup.
Yeah.
Just like skirts all over the place. Yeah. That's it. No slide.
I don't wake up in the morning and I'm like, man, I just feel like a ketchup slide today.
Yeah, right. It's not something you think of every single morning.
I wonder what's going on in the Seaboard.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Well, cool. And you play bass guitar?
I do, yes. Yeah, I was in a band.
Saxophone.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So in high school, I was all about the performing arts, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I ended up actually being, at one time, the president of band and the president of choir as well, too.
Nice.
So alto sax was what I just loved to play, and then eventually after school, started getting into guitar, that kind of stuff, right? And then in college, I picked up the bass and just there I go. So picked it up pretty easy. Joined a band. Long story short was our name. So I think we played one fair and a couple of parties, and that was pretty much it.
Yeah, you did. Yeah. What style were you guys?
What's that?
What style?
So alternative rock.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
You guys still have a MySpace page floating around somewhere?
We do. That's crazy that you said that. Yeah, I haven't been on there for a long time. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's going to date me. Then I still remember when Facebook was thefacebook.com. And I remember my girlfriend back in the day too she's like, why are you typing in thefacebook.com? I'm like, well, what do you mean? That's what it is. So I went to UW-Madison, and I had a friend at Harvard as well too. So I learned about Facebook early on. So I was one of the first people in the UW system that hopped on, and it was cool at the time, and it's changed so much. But oh my gosh, MySpace, that takes me back.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh yeah. Well, I remember that because that was I had a band in high school too. That was a part of it.
Cool.
And we had a MySpace page. And
yep. Everybody did. Yeah. Oh, you can code this. You can make it your own.
MySpace is still a thing.
It is. Yeah. So I think was it Justin Timberlake? I think ended up buying it out and doing some other stuff with it.
Really?
Yeah. They're trying to change the platform. I can't remember. It's been so long since I've been on there, but yeah.
So maybe his venture's not quite successful yet.
Probably not.
He should stick to dancing and singing.
Right, yeah. Stick to TikTok videos or whatever.
I'm a JT fan. He's you talk about the music industry. You really, if you're gonna, you really are an entertainer. That's really what you are, generally speaking. And JT is just a fantastic entertainer. I mean, incredible voice, but just an all-around really good musician. I think sometimes people don't realize that. You might not like the style of music, but if you're a musician and you realized his abilities on various instruments and singing and dancing all at the same time,
it's crazy.
Yeah, it's good stuff. So it doesn't have to be your cup of tea, but so what do you listen to for music? What do you like?
It's funny that you say that. So
JT.
Never listened to, right? All the time. Just cue it up on Pandora or something. So lately I've been listening to country. Like, I hate to even admit that on here right now. I never listened to country growing up. I always told people.
That out. That's staying. That's staying.
Growing up, I always told people when they ask me, hey, what kind of music do you listen to? I always say, I listen to everything except for country music and polka music, right? So when I moved to this area, all I remember was country music all over the place, and then I've never seen so much clothing with like camo. Like you can get everything. So but yeah, I think all the radio stations right now that we have in our car is just all country music right now. So
there you go.
Not saying that I'm in love with country, but that's mainly what I listen to. Yeah, true. So our Alexa at home, whenever you say, Alexa, play music or whatever it is, play Pandora, like it always turns to country music. So
now when you say country, is it like new country or old country?
Mainly old country. Yeah. She listens to a lot of like new. My girlfriend Molly, so she listens to a lot of new country as well. Yeah. But when I can, I'll go back to the old school like Blink 182 or stuff like that. And she's like, "What is that music?" So she's not familiar with punk rock back in the day or just.
Yeah, I remember where I was the first time I heard All the Small Things.
Yeah.
Right. A buddy's dad was taking me home. I was in the backseat of their car.
Okay.
And this is on, I forget the name of the street, but I went to Ashwaubenon High School, but I was in middle school at the time, so it was Parkview Middle School.
Yeah.
And there's like this little side street now that Target's on. That kind of cuts through there, and I remember just being like, this is a really cool song, right?
Yeah.
And it made me kind of fall in love. And you had like Boxcar Racer a few years later, all kind of stuff. Just fun stuff, good stuff. But that's awesome, man. I enjoy country. Johnny Cash fan for sure.
Oh, heck yeah.
I'm a big Roscoe Flats fan.
Okay,
I think that,
saw them live, yeah.
And just the musicality and a lot of the stuff that they do there, whether or not it's actually those three guys or other folks, but like,
sure.
It's just really, really good. The guys and whoever the lead singer is a Gary or whatever his name is, but a crazy voice. Just really, really good stuff.
Yeah.
But I generally don't gravitate toward country. One thing I do appreciate about country, though, is it seems like it's one of the few genres left that actually has like substance.
I know what you're about to say. Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
You're going to say that. That's actually one of the reasons why I'm listening to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. I'll admit it. Yes, I do listen to it a lot. Was that listening
now it's
to?
Coming out. Now
yeah.
it's
Right.
coming.
Listening to the top 40 stations. I can't do it anymore. And it seems like with country, it's newer. It's different styles of music. Stuff that actually has good content, well produced, all that kind of stuff too. So well written.
Yeah, and I mean, there's some garbage in there. Like,
oh yeah.
Anyone that tells me Old Town Road is country music is not a friend of mine.
Yeah.
But and there's some folks there, but it's actually like one of the last genres left that actually it seems like has substance. Still is telling a story.
I totally
not
agree.
Something about like partying and
it's not the same stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's just like a lot of the top 40 stuff can feel or seem so empty.
Correct.
I'm all about making music great again. So
there we go. I like that.
That's cool, man. That's awesome. Well, we could ride talk for hours. We should jam though. I mean, break out the bass guitar. Do you still play?
There we go. I sold my bass a while ago, but I can still pick it up.
Do you do acoustic at all, or?
I can. Yeah.
That'd be fun.
I mean, you name it, I can pick it up.
Break out the alto, man.
Yeah, there we
Dave
go.
Matthews style. Are you Dave fan?
Jam band style, I do like it. I can't listen to it for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's I'm a big Dave Matthews fan. It took me a while. I dated a gal back in the day that really, really liked Dave, and I didn't. And I was like, that's probably why we ended our relationship, right? Teasing, but
darn it, Dave.
It took me a while to actually like
Dave Grohl though. That's
like
Dave Grohl.
It took me a while to actually get what was get the music, because it's not your verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, right?
Oh, right, yeah. ABA, like style.
And once I got that, it's like, man, so it's like, I think it was back this is probably 14 years ago, that I actually really started to like it, like click for me, and I was like, cool. Don't like love everything by them, but there's a lot that I really
there are a few songs.
Now, that said, I'm not a huge jam band guy, generally speaking. Because sometimes it can just be so hard to follow the music.
Right.
And it seems to me
it's like 15 minutes later, the song's still going.
Yeah, it seems to me that jam band music would be most enjoyed if you were under the influence of blank.
Yeah, exactly.
Or whatever it is, and so which is not Kyle's style. So if you're Red Rocks or whatever it is. So,
yep.
That's awesome. Yeah, very, very cool, man. Yeah, what else?
Yeah, no, I mean, going back into, I kind of have to give a little bit of history as well, too, of, where I came from, stuff like that as well, because that's really going to define, and really you'll start to see how I, came to formation as well, and, what brought me here, too. So let me tell you a little bit about my background and my family and, what all occurred. So,
Hey, this is Kyle. Well done on your decision today to be great. Those are my kiddos in the background. Hey, if you want more of this kind of content, find me on social media. We'll keep the conversation going. You can hit me up on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, at StartWithWNTD. Again, at StartWithWNTD. We'll see you there.
So going back to how it all began, right? How the whole story started. So like I mentioned, I was born in Laredo, Texas, deep down south, right? My dad did work for the government. There are a couple of things that occurred. He took early retirement in the early '80s. So we actually moved from Laredo to Corpus Christi, and then up to Watoma, Wisconsin. So kind of a crazy move. I was pretty young when that all occurred, so I don't remember too much of Texas, but I hear a lot of stories. Being the youngest child, I have 3 older brothers. They wouldn't beat up on me, but they'd tell me stories of how cool the South was and all that kind of stuff. So, growing up in Watoma, it was a town of 1,500 people, pretty small town.
And about how old were you when you moved north?
Oh man, so probably maybe about 5.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah. So pretty young. So Watoma is really where I, call home.
Yeah.
Right. But I got to tell people, came from Texas, right? Yeah. So growing up in Watoma, my dad and my mom, they split, early on. So I was raised primarily with my dad, and he right away, formed me with, the Knights of Columbus, got me into the community of, hey, do unto others, right? Help out, your fellow man, all that kind of stuff. So early on, I was learning these life lessons of it's not always about you, right? Yeah. You got to help those around you. You got to help your neighbor. So that was, instilled with me early on. And it really just started to shape my life in terms of helping others, right? And so, getting into, high school, I started joining as many clubs as possible. I tried to do outreach, community stuff, right? And then one of the things that I noticed, too, was that I right away just loved science. All right, so just early on, I wanted to know how things worked, right? I was involved with, like I said, the Knights of Columbus once I hit 18, but Columbian Squires early on as well, too.
What's Columbian Squires?
So it's like the Junior Knights of Columbus.
Oh, cool.
All right, so yeah. So I actually was running that organization, and then, I found myself, like I mentioned, the head of band, the head of choir, all that kind of stuff, right, too. So quickly I realized that a lot of people seemed to want to follow me. A lot of people, wanted to listen to what I had to say because it did influence their lives, right? And in a positive way, right? And people would always come to me when they had questions about stuff similar to like right now what we're doing. Yeah. Right, Lewis, what do I not do? What did you do? What can I do? So a lot of the youth would look up to me, which was really pretty cool, but also scary because there are all these people that have questions, right? They want to know, they want to become better in their lives. So that really was, like I said, scary but also exciting, and that just continues up until even today. I get that still a lot. But in high school, what ended up happening to me was that I ended up becoming what was known as a GTE Astro Scholars. Kind of crazy saying that, but in 8th grade, so just before high school, signed up for this 2-week-long program with GTE Astro Scholars, and learned about space and like time and how all these things worked.
So let's pause there.
Yeah.
I have no idea what a GTE Astro Scholar is.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna roll the dice and say our listeners probably don't either.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
So what is it? Why is it a big deal?
Yeah. So that's where I really got my first real flavor of science, right? Physics, all this stuff that was like, holy cow, this is unique. What possible dimensions and quantum theories, like it was just insane. It blew my mind. And
in 8th grade.
In 8th grade, yeah, right. So I just had an aptitude always for science and math. All right. So when I did this program, because all of a sudden I wanted, I think it was like Bill Nye or something back in the day, right? Got me excited onto space, NASA. This is really cool. So when I applied, that's when I figured out I'm kind of a nerd, kind of a geek. And so what they did was, they took you to the planetariums. They, had lots of different education series about, what things are, what things aren't, and, how life could have possibly came to be. Just, like I said, it blew my mind. And right away I knew that this could be something that I want to do in life. Like, I'm very passionate about it, right?
And maybe it's not that you're a nerd.
Yeah.
Maybe everyone else is the nerd and you're the cool guy.
Maybe.
Right?
Yeah. So, fast forward into, high school. So I did that the summer before high school, and then kind of high school, and I wanted to learn more about the sciences, right?
Yeah.
So it led me into something that I just love, and I would recommend this to any youth as well. Something called Summer Science Institute. Okay. Robert Bohannon runs it at UW-Madison. Okay. It's a 7-week-long program, and what it is so. You would apply as a high school student for this program, and everything's free. And what happens is that you get to pick one of 5, 6 different categories that you want to participate in. So the choices could have been, so I did this for 3 summers. The first year I decided, hey, I want to do genetics and biotechnology. The second year I actually did virology. Third year I did psychology. So the first summer, so after my freshman year in high school, I went to UW-Madison with this SSI program. And right away what they do was they say, okay, you're going to be paired up with 6 other people. So there's a total of 7 of us. And they say, all right, you're paired up with 1 grad student and a professor. And so they spend the first couple of weeks just teaching you a little bit about genetics, a little bit about biotechnology, do a rundown. You're traveling together at UW-Madison, going through all these scholastic articles, journals, stuff like that. And you just really get a crash course. And again, to me that was fascinating, right? Love biology, love really all the sciences, but what was really cool was that after the first couple of weeks, they come to you and they say, all right, here, based off of everything we just taught you, we want you guys to, number 1, create something that you want to do in terms of research. And we're going to go to Promega. So we actually got to go to Promega every single day outside of Madison, Fitchburg. Promega. So they do a lot of different things. Right now, they're known for creating the PCR for that's being used to test coronavirus, stuff like that. So Promega is a huge name. They make test tubes, PCR kits, a lot of different things. Huge organization. And so we got to go there every single day, and we were talking about potentially creating rat food that would actually make rats glow in the dark, so you can actually spot them and kill them, stuff like that. There's just so many different things that we wanted to do, but then it was, well, is this an ethical thing to do? Is it not? We were just getting into some crazy stuff. So
they're just sitting there watching and smiling.
Yeah, right. Yeah, here are these high school kids talking about making rats glow, right? So it was crazy.
But even then, finding yourself confronted with the question of ethics, right?
Yeah.
And of course, and these folks that have been seasoned in this way of thinking in life and in practice and patterns, they're probably really enjoying watching you guys discover and explore and kind of pinball your way around these topics and issues.
Yeah.
How do we do these things? And
right.
That's cool.
Yeah. So we were talking. Let's grab the LAC-Z gene of this firefly, right? And let's start putting in just random things, just what can we make glow and call it science and right to study for Anyway, so that was my first year, so really pretty cool. My second year there though was virology. So I was actually teamed up with a girl named Sarah. So it was 2 of us that studied in the Bach labs. And what we did was you get your crash course, right, in virology. What does it mean? What do we do? You're signed up with a grad student as well as a professor. And the virus that we actually got into was something called reovirus. It was an Australian virus, not harmful to humans. And the cool part about it was that the virus is actually, and this was probably summer of '98, something like that. So the cool part was that this virus was actually being used, it was being bioengineered to target cancer cells. All right, so here it is. You can enter it in. It actually was known to kill cancer cells. I think it had a 90+% rate of efficacy of killing these cancer cells. And they're talking about doing human trials, never came to be, because we won't even get into that.
Right.
But it was very fascinating. Again, finding something, the sciences that's just, holy cow, this is so cool, right? We can actually manipulate this and just, we could change the world. You become very passionate about that, right?
On the human trials thing, everyone wants to do the human trials, but no one wants to be the human that's getting tried.
Exactly. Which is funny because you have a lot of people, especially in that field, where your friends, family, they'll say, well, quit studying on animals. Like, this is a bad thing. Because, yes, we had to kill rats, right, mice. And it's like, well, you know what? We'll sign you up. We will gladly sign you up. And right away, they're like, well, I like my products that don't test animals. Like, you know what? It started somewhere, so... but no, so with the virology, we had discovered which proteins, and this had never been done before since real virus was a fairly new thing. But Sarah and I actually discovered what proteins are lost when a virus becomes an ISVP particle and gets into human cell. So we actually ended up publishing a paper on what it is, and we tried to. I think we entered a couple of different science competitions as well too, of saying, hey, this could change, the world, right? So as a high school student, that was pretty fascinating to me, knowing that we were able to do that, and then also
life-giving.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So and knowing that your journals or your articles also going to be published for others to use.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that was really cool, and that again sparked the fascination of wow, we can educate, we can make difference out there in the world. Yeah. So little bits and pieces, early on of helping the youth, helping others, right, and then helping outside of your community. So that really just blew me up. Like, oh, I'm high in life, and that was in high school. So I wanted to get into science even after high school, right? So what I did was I got a full tuition, full ride to UW-Madison to study bacteriology, right? And I was hoping that I could get into virology right away. They're like, well, that's a grad student program, right? And you have to pick one of these 3 courses. So right away they were trying to say, you got to go here, here, or here, right? And to me, it's like, well, what's happening? I could do almost anything I wanted in the world, and now, you're being told that you have to, study different things, which I get. So I studied bacteriology, and, for the first 3 years, just, taking your general classes, right, chemistry, and biology, stuff like that, and back to you. I was actually working for McCardle Labs at the time, doing oncolytic research, and I was in a place...
What's oncolytic? What's oncolytic?
So, yeah, they study cancer cells.
Okay, cool.
So, yep, each grad student that was in there, they picked different things to actually study of, how the efficacy of different drugs or different things, whatever it is, or like we did with what kind of proteins, what happens to things.
Yeah.
So there were quite a bit of grad students, and so I was helping them with their research. And, talking more and more to them, the happiness level, it struck me right away as though these guys aren't happy. Like, they seem like they are into their research, but are they really happy? And there's a key difference that I kept noticing later on in life as well, too, that, are these people happy around me? When I look towards mentors, I look for not only are they successful, but are they really truly happy with what they're doing?
Yeah.
Because that's what I want first of all, right? So
because you want to be mentored by someone that you would gladly trade places with.
Correct.
Right? And
exactly.
if you're not happy, you're not gladly.
Why am I going to,
trade
right.
places with.
So for me, I love science. Still to this day, I love it. I love to do research, just in a different way now. But, there, it just seemed like everybody was happy, and the more I was talking to people that would even fly in and do different things with the group that I was with and not with, everybody was kind of saying the same thing, and it boggled my mind that how could you not be happy with this? And I was hearing about, well, in the real world, you have to worry about money and bills, and as a college student, not really quite thinking along those lines yet. And so what led me was one day I was just sitting there, just pipetting, going crazy, right? And I'm in this place that has no windows. All right, so there are no windows at all in this place, like no sunlight, just bright lights above you, and I just said, you know what? I don't think I can do this anymore. This isn't making me happy. Nobody's very talkative, and I'm a people person. I need to get out. I gotta change my life. So I actually didn't finish college. I decided that, you know what? It's not going to be something for me. So
the bacteria doesn't carry good conversation.
No, it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't confide in you. Like it doesn't.
You're saying like people weren't very. They were into the research, loved that, but they weren't just very happy in life in general. And
right.
I don't know. I mean, like studying basically, disease and death. Like, that wouldn't make me very happy either.
No. And the crazier part was, I found out that a lot of them, they couldn't really even though they said they were doing their own research, they weren't, because you had to do the research under the professor that was in charge of the lab and all that kind of stuff. So you had a little bit of say of what you could do. But when they would complain about different things of, well, I'm not number one on the journal that is being published, and what can I do with this? Can I make money?
It's kind of like they were maybe like guinea pigs or pawns for more tenured folks.
Yeah, correct.
So like, hey, you're going to do the legwork, the dirty work, and that does not. I shouldn't. The way I'm saying it makes it sound like it's a bad thing. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but like I can understand that could also be a drain on enjoying what you do. Yeah.
Right.
Crazy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I did end up quitting college. And then
Did you finish 4 years? Or
no, I stopped after 3 years.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, so I took some, started taking some other classes like choir, stuff like that. Just I felt like having fun the last semester that I was there. Right?
I'm not happy. Let's go sing.
So I decided to sing, learn how to write music. So I was like,
I want to start a country band.
Right? Yeah, I'm going to start a country band. Probably move to Northeast Wisconsin and get crazy. So I ended up leaving and I was trying to do some soul searching.
Yeah.
I actually ended up working at the Doubletree Hotel in downtown Madison, which is really cool because we got to meet.
I stayed there once.
Did you? Okay.
Once upon a time.
Cool. All right. Well, I was working there for I don't know how many years that I was there, but met some really cool people. Alex Trebek, a couple of bands as well too that came through there. So it was really awesome. But I was only doing it part time, right?
Yeah.
So I was trying to figure out, well, what do I want to do in life? I got getting away from the sciences, and actually before I did that, I know you and I were talking earlier about getting into business, right? One of the things that I actually thought about before, getting into, choir and stuff like that was I wanted to get into business because I always seem to, along with my brothers, we just seem to have that spirit of let's get into business, and no matter where you go, it always seems like just everything's business.
Yeah.
So I actually met with my dad at the Parthenon on State Street. I remember this day very vividly. I was like, Dad, I want to do business. What do you think about that? And right away, his jaw dropped, and it's like, well, you've done science all your life. What are you going to do? You don't want to get into that. So I was afraid. I was afraid to say no to my dad, right? So I pretty much didn't follow that path that I wanted to do, that I felt, somewhat of a calling for. And I just, kind of lost hope at that point in time. So I just, stuck with, working the hotel. And then all of a sudden, crazy story was that at that time, there were some of the guys I knew played poker. All right, so an online poker, was a thing at that time. I don't think it blew up quite yet. The Chris Moneymaker days. I don't know if you're familiar with online poker.
No, but I've got a buddy who is. Yeah.
You do? Okay, all right, got it.
I know a guy.
So I know a guy, right?
Asking for a friend.
Yeah. So what happened was I started doing a little bit of online poker, but I didn't really care to do it online. What I noticed was that a friend of mine had introduced me to a home game. Right away, I'm winning all these home games, right? They're playing tournament style, a little sit and go style, stuff like that, and I'm winning all these
in real money, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Not Bitcoin.
No, not yet. But I had friends oh my gosh, Bitcoin was $5, and Tesla was at $20, $30. Anyway, so I started playing poker, right? And then I started getting invited to more and more games. Then I got invited to more and more games, and the games kept getting bigger and bigger, and I kept winning and winning. So I ended up playing poker for 4 years of my life, and I was getting into.
So you did full time?
Yes.
And so
most people don't know that. I don't typically talk about that story, but yes. So
I'm giving you the silent nod.
Got it. All right, I see that. So I ended up starting playing poker, awesome. And I was just traveling around. So I actually had this little moped, and I was cruising around all these things, renting cars at that time. Before you had to have a credit card, it had to be 21. So I was renting, or 24, 25, whatever it was. I wasn't old enough to rent a car now, but yeah. Anyway, so I started traveling around to some of these bigger and bigger games, and they were saying, "Oh, well, meet Phil Galfond, meet Phil Hellmuth, meet Poker Ho, Mark Kroon, and all these other guys playing these games that are pretty big." In fact, I was also attending something called Badger Poker. I don't believe they exist anymore, but they would have these backroom points games, and even in Appleton, when I would come visit family too, I would secretly go to these points games for this group, and it was crazy because a lot of people didn't know how to truly play poker yet, right? The theory around game theory, a lot of people didn't realize how to optimize their play, right? The plus minus EV EV, all that kind of stuff too, and do calculations and runouts on the cards too. So right away I knew I had an advantage over most people, right? So I took advantage of that, right? Obviously.
And about what time was this? 2000s?
Oh man, 2000s. Yep.
Early 2000s.
Correct. Yeah. So, so I did that for.
How old are you now?
How old am I now? 36.
Yeah. So I'm
So
33.
yeah.
So yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So.
I'm tracking.
Yeah. Right. Poker was awesome. I mean, there were highs and lows, of course, and some of the swings you just had to not think about it as money, but you thought about it as. It's a skill game. It really is. I truly believe poker's a skill game to this day, right? Even when Black Friday occurred and they shut down online poker and everything, it's always been a skill game. So that's why certain players have an edge. So, but for me, I never got into the tournaments. It was always the cash games, right? So I lived.
Now, when you say skill game, do you differentiate that from understanding game theory, or is that the skill?
It's part of the skill.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, there are other things, of course, playing the player, you hear about that a lot, but that's not as big of a thing.
Right.
I mean, there are other things you can do, bet size and stuff like that. There are certain tells that could give off stuff as well, too. But then I can also figure out, if I'm going to raise you $100 right now, well, which hands are you going to play? You're going to play aces, kings, stuff like that, right? I know your range, right? So I'll manipulate you because I now know your range of what you're going to play, what you're going to re-raise me with, right? Once I can figure that out, I got you beat. You're done, right? So game theory optimization, GTO, becomes more of a play, and if you can do that, then you're going to win over time. You will always win. So.
Yeah, and so that's fascinating. Like, I would love to learn that.
Yeah.
I have a couple books on my shelf that I've yet to break into, but just on the game of poker, basically. One maybe is called Beat the Dealer, but I'm going to botch the guy's name, but a guy that applied basically game theory or understanding poker to the stock market.
Oh, yes.
Because there's a lot of overlaps. Like he said,
Correct.
You're going to get the swings, but if you're optimizing it for the long game, you can actually do really well.
Correct.
And he's crushed it.
I know what you're talking about.
Cool.
Yeah. So poker was a thing. Like I said, math and science, right? Two big things, especially with that. It was cool working with people in the sense that you're getting to know folks as well too over the games, and it was interesting because there were business deals that were being made over some of these games, and I'm talking like there was some pretty big money that I was getting into, and I don't remember exactly what day it hit me, but it was one of those times when I felt like, where am I going with my life on this? I mean. Since a lot of my friends were, in college, some of the younger people that I was meeting as well too, they're coming in college as well. I'd meet them around Madison and other areas. I was like, what am I doing? How am I benefiting the community? How did I get here versus, what my dad taught me growing up, all that kind of stuff too. And
Hey, thank you so much for listening. If you haven't already, and only if you think the show deserves it, would you go over to Apple Podcasts and give us an honest, thoughtful 5-star review? This will really help us in our mission to equip the world for success.
So I kept asking myself, where am I going with this? What am I doing to help my fellow human, right? I've gotten away from everything that I was taught, all the stuff that, I kept telling myself, this is how I'm going to change the world, right? Well, I'm not, I'm blowing my money, like hanging out with, people buying. I had this thing for many years that it was, you don't just do one shot, you do two, right? Like one shot's lame because when you do one shot, you always want a second shot, right? So we'd be going out, and a lot of my friends maybe that are possibly listening to this will recall, we'd go out and party just way too much now looking back. But yeah, I would just, let's throw some money down, let's get crazy. And like the bills were expensive, but to me it was like, hey, I'm going to go play one night of poker, and it pays for, a couple months of living, partying, having fun, whatever else. And that was kind of it. And then it just hit me that, of course, this isn't what I want to do anymore. Yeah. So what ended up happening was, I think I mentioned to you before that, my parents separated early. Just everything with, my dad early on working for the government and retiring, before he was 40, because he was forced into retirement. Things didn't work out, right? And, growing up, at first I didn't understand things. I understand things now better. But what ended up happening was that I decided, I want to learn more about my mom. My mom was, born and raised in Mexico. My family, they met when they were in Mexico. My dad did a lot of work down there. He actually studied So my dad, I think I mentioned to you before that my dad is from Watoma. He actually studied to be a priest on Oneida land. Yeah, there used to be a seminary on Oneida, and so he studied to be a priest, and then he couldn't afford continuing.
Is this the Episcopal Church?
No, the Catholic priest.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
That's
so
awesome.
the Green Bay Diocese, they used to have a seminary on the Oneida land.
Wow.
So it's now shut down.
Out near Watoma?
No, this is in Oneida.
Oh, internet here.
Yeah,
right?
correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
Awesome.
So I've never visited the place, but yeah, he would always talk about that. So he actually left, met my mom. Anyway, they split, right? So I decided, hey, I want to learn more about my mom because again, I was thinking like, where am I going with my life, right?
Yeah.
So I felt like there was some sort of, emptiness that I need to before I can figure out truly what I want to do for the rest of my life. Maybe I just need to, get to know her a little bit.
Tracing
like
the roots a little bit, yeah.
Right, yeah. So my mom lived in Appleton, and prior to me moving to Appleton from Madison, I never really made it up this way. All right, growing up in Watoma, we would sometimes make it to Appleton for like visiting the mall or going to see a movie in Oshkosh, but it would very rarely occur. Right, we were better off going to like the Dells or somewhere else. So I ended up moving to Appleton, and for work, I decided to get a job at Time Warner Cable. I thought, hey, this is kind of cool. Like, I love technology. Let's see what this has to offer, right? So that's where I first got my grasp of telecommunications. All right, so I quickly noticed that I understood things very fast. Of how things work, right? That's just how I was raised. It's just how I came to be, was that I love to do the research, right? I need to know how to do things. Well, I also learned that I'm really good at sales, too. So it was very easy for me to talk to somebody over the phone, help them fix a problem, whatever it is, and then just learn a little bit about what they're looking for, right? Because everybody seems to have something that they want. They're maybe afraid to talk about it, maybe afraid to say something, but everybody has ideas, right? So I would quickly be able to, get somebody to give me those ideas, right? Let me help you towards that. That, again, goes back to how I was raised. How can I help you, right? It isn't me trying to help myself, but how can I help you?
Yeah.
And, I started selling this stuff, and to me it wasn't about sales. It was about helping people.
Yeah.
I just learned that, everybody started saying, Lewis, you can sell, man. Yeah, do this. Here, hit this goal. We're going to move you to sales queue, all that kind of stuff, right? And again, I'm like, it's not about the money, right? Because early on, even through the poker years, I never thought about it as money, really. If I could use money to help others, I always would, which has led me into some issues, of course, of what not to do, borrow money to people. But that's one of the things where I never cared about the money, still to this day.
Yeah.
So I was at Time Warner Cable for a while, and then I decided to, hey, I'm going to go back to school, right? So I actually signed up at Fox Valley Tech. I left Time Warner Cable. I'm like, hey, I love working at the DoubleTree. It was fun, something to do. I'm going to go, become this hospitality person, have a hotel casino somewhere in the world, and I thought that'd be cool. And that's not what I wanted to do, because right away I was, again, just like before, I was forced kind of into, you got to take these classes, you got to do culinary, and I do love to cook, right? But it wasn't something that I felt like I should be able to pick and choose what I want to do.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately there was kind of a little bit of a barrier there, and I said, you know what? I want to do something else. So I jumped again, right, at trying to get into something else. I ended up actually moving back to Madison with my brother Henry and his now wife. And so when I moved back to Madison, I didn't have a job right away, and I said, one day we went out to eat at Granite City, which amazing place. Don't know if you've ever been there.
Their
awesome.
Broad Axe Stout. So good.
Yeah.
The beer, the Broad Axe Stout. Yeah, big fan.
Yep. So I signed up for the club. We'd have the tap nights, right?
My club, baby.
Yeah, that's right. You know it.
Yeah.
Love it. All right. So I was at Granite City. I'm like, what was it? I heard on the radio one day that there was going to be this job fair for this company.
Yeah.
And so it just happened that my brother, his wife, myself, we decided to go over there to eat because, again, we love the food. And so I arrived, and there's this guy I noticed maybe 2 tables away from me. Big guy, bright red hair, totally stuck out, right? But he was talking, flaring his arms, this guy, he seems like he's kind of cool. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to get a job today. So actually, I got up, I walked over, introduced myself. His name was Jerry. I don't know if he still works for the company, but he was one of the HR guys. And so I'm like, hey, tell me a little about what you got going on here. What do you guys do? Talk to me. And he starts telling me, and it's West. I don't know if you're familiar with that organization. So West, they do a lot of call center space environments. They also create IP telephony and some other stuff as well. And it was explained to me how they operate with, AT&T, they operate with, huge, massive companies, and they'll do account management, they'll do sales, they'll do a lot of different things. So they'll customize a solution for these, Fortune 500, Fortune 100 organizations. And I'm like, hey, that sounds cool. What do I got to do? So he's like, hey, just fill this out. So I ended up actually getting a call back from Jerry within 24 hours. Went in, I think 3 interviews later, I got signed up for a job. So pretty cool. All right, let's do this. So because of my work with Time Warner Cable, they put me into the AT&T program. So what that meant was that AT&T at that time was doing something different. They were originally AT&T for business customers. They would actually say, okay, well, if you're paying $1 million annually, you get an account manager. Anybody under that? Sorry, you're not going to get an account manager. Call the 800 number. Good luck. Have fun, right? Yeah. So the SMB space, wasn't really getting a lot of help. So what was going on at the time was that AT&T came to us and said, you know what? We're going to start doing account management for some of these lower tiers under the X amount of dollars annually. So that's the program that I got involved with, was something called, the AT&T NBM Bronze or CBS Bronze. Like, it changed so many names because they kept having these different ideas. And what happened was, again, I had this affinity of sales, of getting down to the bottom of things, right? Doing the research, finding out what was truly right for the customer. So right away, I noticed that, holy crap, like I'm selling. At first I hit the floor, being the first true sales account management position. I was kind of afraid at first. I had that call reluctancy where it's like, nobody's on the phone. I don't know if I want to call. I'm just going to, pretend I'm working, that sort of thing, right? So that was day one.
Team. Why isn't anyone
calling? Yeah, right? Exactly. They had their other ways of selling.
Research, right?
Yeah, so I'm like, okay, well, this is interesting. And so there's this girl named Shira, and she would sit with me, and she'd be like, all right, let's do this. We're going to call. And she was, one of our team leaders.
Yeah.
And some of the things she said to me just, got me pumped up. I'm like, yeah, all right, let's do this. Let's, So I actually created some sort of challenges with some people as well. Hey, well, you know what? Let's do this. Let's go, turn it into, now gamification is what people will call it, right? So what are the challenges? What are these goals? What can we go for? What can we achieve, right? Unlock this achievement. Yeah. And so, I turned the game into something cool. All right, and people just kept getting bought into it, and it's like, awesome, let's do this, guys, right? So, there were these twins that were also, they were always the top sellers. And one of them was like, hey, you think you're so good? Let's do a little bet here. I'm like, well, guys, I don't know if you want to do that, because they didn't really know me, So that was kind of interesting. So I actually ended up challenging both of them to sales, and I ended up winning. And just, it felt so amazing. Anyway.
Attaboy.
Yeah, right?
I'm going to get some refills here. Cheers.
Yep. Cheers. So yeah, when I set my mind on things, I go get it, right? I go achieve.
Yeah, I think when you say you love helping people,
yep.
It's not so much about the money. And you're not saying that money's not important, right? Obviously,
got to pay bills, got to do stuff.
Yeah. And wealth is really, really good to build, but you're not putting it first over people.
Yep.
And I think one thing that would have, if I'm linking it together, what's so powerful is that because of your drive and your love of wanting to know how things work, you actually really understand what the customer wants, right?
Right.
And so you're applying what you learned in a completely different field to sales.
Yep.
And just saying hey, I need to do the research to really understand what's going on.
Correct.
And what that best solution is. If I don't take the time to do that, and it takes time, then there's no way I can get the right solution.
Right.
And then that also, when people know that you actually get them and you actually understand, that builds that trust, rapport, and they're gonna want to do business with you.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's how we operate today.
Yeah. Cool.
Yep. Exactly right. And it goes on to a deeper level as well too. When I was mentioning Shira and some of the others, and along the way, I realized that
wax on the floor.
Wax on the floor.
The previous top sales guy.
Yeah, exactly. So I learned that, not to say I was manipulating people, but I knew how to reach them. I knew how to get you inspired, right? Get you into, hey, let's get bought in. Here's our vision. This is what we want to do, guys. Let's do this, right? Can you do this with me? Yeah, let's do it. All right, cool. Let's get pumped. So I ended up getting promoted, I think, within the first 3 months that I hit the floor. I became a team leader, then what was known as, so we were all telephone account managers at first, and then became what was known as a data TAM. So what that was in the AT&T world, it's like an applications sales consultant or a TSC, a technical sales consultant. What that means is, let's say this where we are now. They want to upgrade to, let's say, fiber optics and do some really crazy, intense stuff, all right, in terms of technology. So I would be the one that actually has that conversation with them of say, hey, what are your requirements? What are you looking to do? Where do you want to go in 5 years, right? What are some of the restrictions you might, be worried about? So I'd start asking key questions, right? Find out where we want to go. What do you truly need, right, to accomplish whatever your goal is, now, later, whatever, right? Make sure that there were no restrictions, no barriers to what they were looking to do. So I would actually then create the contracts, do the custom language, all that kind of stuff. Start learning more in the AT&T systems of how to, create that for somebody. So that's what I started doing. Again, started making sales, started doing well, right? Eventually along the way, I was asked, hey, Wes is going to be opening up a location in Green Bay, all right? We want to get the AT&T program in Green Bay. And this was just a few years back, where they said, hey, can you, move? Can you help us out? So I moved.
Can you go?
Yeah, so it was cool. I mean, hey, I wasn't dating anybody. I was, there's nothing that was really holding me to staying in the Madison area. So I said, all right, sure, let's do it. Let's go check out Green Bay. I've never really been there. So I said, yeah. So they paid for me to move up here. Really cool people that I met right off the bat, right? Cool. So very welcomed into the area, which is awesome. So thank you as well for reaching out.
Yeah.
I've had no issues. Yeah.
I'm kind of rough around the edges, but
all right. Just some more coffee. The sales manager at the time in Green Bay was already placed there before me. Yeah. He ended up leaving for whatever reasons I don't recall right now, but I moved into the sales manager position. And we were doing everything on the West Coast, meaning, I worked 10 to 7. We were calling into, accounts in California primarily. So we were actually starting to work in bigger and bigger organizations. So some that are very well known that we would create, just, again, custom solutions for, right? Custom design everything. So I was actually taking over the West Coast team, and then I also helped with the Central team as well, too. So I was helping everybody, it seemed like. Everybody was coming to me because, there were a lot of questions that people didn't know, right? What does, voice over IP, what is the ping rate, what is this, what is that, right? Getting down to the little nitty-gritty things that makes this service better than this service or this company because of your service level agreements, whatever it is. Stuff that to the common person, that means nothing. But to maybe somebody in the IT space that says, I need to have priority, QoS, COS, all this stuff, whatever it is, I need to have this because of X, right? Well, I would then make sure that we meet those requirements and there's not going to be an issue.
Yeah.
So what I kept noticing was, and I noticed this early on, but even more so once I started moving to Green Bay and got some different accounts, was that I would set up these solutions for people, and I kept noticing that there's only so much you can do working for AT&T, all right? Because you're selling these solutions to them, and all of a sudden the IT person might say, no, we can't do this. We don't want to do this because of X. And you're like, well, we already covered that. That's not correct. You want to keep them on what's known as a T1, a 1.5 meg speed. To you probably know that that's pretty slow.
Yeah.
1.5 meg versus, let's say 100 or 1 gig, right? So this IT person would say, no, we don't need this, or we don't need that, or this isn't going to work. And it's like, well, unless you lied to me or there's something I'm missing here, it should work. And not only will it work, but it's going to do this, and this. Yeah. Reduce your costs as well and whatever else could go with it. But the IT folks, you started seeing that things were siloed within organizations, and that a lot of these IT folks were of the old mind of doing things and weren't aware of some of the newer technology because they went to school way back when. They might be CCNA or specific certification, but they're not certified in telecom. And the crazy part is most people aren't.
Interesting.
So you'll go to school.
So would you say it's a bit of the Wild West?
Yes. Yeah. Oh, it definitely is. Okay. Even getting into like cabling, so like Cat6 Ethernet cable, right? You want internet here, right? You want to plug in your computer or your phone or whatever it is. You plug it in and you're off to the races. Well, people don't really know what kind of cabling they need or what's in their infrastructure. So we're also noticing a lot of confusion there, and we have to educate people. So again, there's that word, educate, right? So that's really what we keep getting into. And when I decided to leave West or AT&T account management space, I knew that there was a calling for me here, was that I have all these companies that keep saying the same thing. we had the solution. Lewis, what happened? What's going on? My guy's telling me something different, or AT&T came in and they couldn't do this, they couldn't do that, or something's going wrong. And you're like, I can't help you. You got to find somebody that's local that's going to be able to help your organization, right? You don't want to tell them that their IT sucks or anything, but your IT sucks. So, or get them educated, because again, it comes down to they went to school for maybe Cisco or whatever it is, or basic equipment or hardware, but in order for them to learn about the telephones, the telephony side, or some other sides of things, they have to do different certifications. So you might go to an Avaya or a Mitel, and they'll certify you for thousands of dollars because you have to show up and do training programs. Well, to me, that's crazy. And nowadays, that's so old school mentality of forcing people to do that. It just doesn't make sense with the cloud and everything. So again, I got into it's going to cost you guys a lot of money to educate and a lot of time. It's going to restrict you because you said you want to roll out 10 sites within this time frame. Like, this is what you got to do. This is perfect for you guys. So again, I kept noticing issues, right? So I said, this can't continue. I've got to do something to help this community. And it's not just this little California state of, it's the world. It's the world that we know was quickly evolving, right? The digital space was changing very quickly.
Faster every day.
Yeah, right. So what I decided to do was, back in about January of 2018, I put in my 2-week notice. I ended up working for another month trying to help out with the transition at West. But I knew that I wanted to start some sort of consulting agency, right? Of consulting in terms of, something very similar to like AT&T of what I was doing, of educating the space of, this is how things work, right? Just very simple. So I was doing training sessions, doing education, stuff like that. But what ended up happening was I ended up actually launching the organization, which is Merivox Solutions. And we launched with 4 of us total. So there were 4 partners, right? Some of the guys that I knew, West actually a few months after I left, ended up closing their Green Bay spot. So a couple of the guys that approached me early on and said, hey, you think we can, start something together? And I was very open to it because they sold well. They seemed to know what they were doing. I was actually their sales manager, by the way. I don't know if I mentioned that. I did become a sales manager for 1-2 years. So the guys seemed like they knew what they were doing. Didn't know them really on the business side or what really drove them. I knew to a point, of course, because that's part of what I did for mentoring and one-on-ones, coach and stuff like that. But I didn't really know them because they weren't my friends. They were coworkers or direct reports under me. So getting into some of the stuff down the road that we're going to talk about, it launched with the 4 guys. Right now there are only 2 of us. 2 of them had left, down to 2 of us there. But that's where we started. Was we launched with the idea of telecommunications. Right, we're going to educate people on not only AT&T but Spectrum and all that kind of stuff too. So that's what we got into. Fast forward from April of 2018 when we first started into where we are now, we launched our IT side of the business. All right, so again, going down into trying to truly help people, we can still sell and do the telecom side of things, but there's still an issue with people needing help for somebody physical to actually install stuff, things on that line. So we launched our IT side of what is really known as MSP, Managed Service Provider. All right, so we manage people's solutions because if I give you, let's say, the 2 tablets I have right now or 2 iPads as well as some other stuff, if I give them to you and say, okay, we're going to roll something out, here, play with this stuff, get it to work. You may not be able to do it, right? And it's going to take time. So what we do is we'll say, you know what? You need 100 iPads by tomorrow. We're going to custom ship them overnight. We're going to actually plug them all into some devices we have. We'll custom roll out all the apps, everything you need to be able to get all of your people operating like that. Okay. So that's what we do. And we can do it on to scale with so many different technologies, which IoT right now is something that we're doing a lot of as well. Cool. So that's where we are now.
Super exciting.
Yeah, it is.
Very, man. Oh, and I love the story. I love the trajectory, the timeline. And we're gonna get into this in just a little bit, but one thing that I'm just seeing. So one thing I'm a firm believer in is that all learning is in vain unless it's for the sake of others. Right. We learn to be able to reproduce in others. Yep. And that's like a really, in one sense, like, at least throughout your life. You mentioned before you love the research, you love to educate, you love to teach. Yes. And you're linking those things, like your love of actually understanding how it works, but not keeping silent.
Correct.
You want to actually teach and share that with others, which empowers them and helps them to be successful.
Yeah, which is, unfortunately, there's sometimes awesome. That people don't. But it's hard to convey. Yeah, correct.
But awesome, man. That's so cool. So maybe, I mean, talking about learning for the sake of others, it seems like that's a huge driving factor behind why you do what you do.
Yep.
But I'm curious from your perspective, man, like what keeps you getting up out of bed every morning
Sure.
and actually giving yourself to the work that you do?
Yeah.
What's that greater purpose, that mission that's driving you, that's making your blood
Sure.
boil?
Yeah, right. Look back on it again. My dad raised me in the Catholic faith, right? So, right away, the teachings, my dad was all about, if you're going to be Catholic, or you're going to choose your religion, you need to know about other religions, So that's something where he, educated us as well, too, and said, by all means, learn as well. I'll teach you what I can, but, you also need to learn for yourself. And why does this make you, unique and stuff like that? So we got into a lot of great conversations, as youth. But then even getting involved in college, I was involved with the Knights of Columbus. So there's a college council of Knights of Columbus. And what I ended up doing was I ended up getting into the national level. So I flew out to New Haven, Connecticut, just outside of Yale is where where the heads of Knights of Columbus are. And we actually helped organize all the programs across the nation at all of these college campuses. So, getting into that as well, too, I knew that that's something that drove me, right? So something that every single morning I was about, how can I help people? Right? And yes, I had the poker years, whatever else, where I wasn't doing much, but it brought me back. Right? It made sure that I need to go back to what am I waking up for? Right? What am I doing? We have Gary Vee. We're 1 in 4. Was it 1 in 40 million chance just to be here on Earth? Right? So you need to make every day count. Yeah. You hear a lot of successful people in the world as well too, and it's like you need to take advantage of your days, right? Because your time on this earth is limited, right? So what are you going to do? Are you going to bash other people? Are you going to be, negative? Like, are you going to make the most out of your day? Some days, there are struggles, right? Things happen in life.
Well, speak for yourself.
Right? But that was something early on, was that I drove for trying to be better version of myself every single day.
Yeah.
I think that was really number one, because if I can't help myself, or if I can't do something to make sure that I'm healthy, or just find the right mind, right? How am I supposed to help others? How can I be somebody that can support a family moving into the future? How can I support running a business? How can I just support? How can I contribute to the world? So that's one of the things that being able to have that mindset, have open mind to things, is that I know I need to always reset in the morning, at night, whatever it is, that you're ready to go and make the next day the best day ever, and just be a little bit better than you were before. What I noticed too early on was that if I take too many steps forward, right, sometimes you have that way of getting knocked back, or you try to make too many changes in your life to better yourself and others around you. But if you try and do too much, it's tough. Getting into the right habits, right? How long it actually takes to make things into a habit. Right away, I learned, and still to this day, that if I want to try something new, if I want to do something that could benefit myself and others, I need to make it a habit. And that's one of the things that I recommend for people is work on it. Right? There's always hope. You can get better. Right? Things will always get better.
Yeah. So, as long as you're fogging a mirror.
Right. Yeah. So I guess in one word to sum it up, every single morning, hope. I wake up knowing that there's hope.
That's awesome. That's so good, man. It seems like in our day and age, when people that there's maybe a push of like when we talk about it seems like we can go into this ditch where it's all about helping others to the neglect of ourselves, to
Correct.
At the expense of ourselves.
My girlfriend tells me that from time to time.
And it's really interesting. It's like, go help others and just, and perish in the way.
Right.
And sometimes there's even a way that, like a Christian spin gets put on that. And I couldn't think, it seems to me that couldn't be any farther from the truth. And I think you hit it on the head. If you can't lead yourself, how could you, if you're working out from concentric circles, right? Or in a simple way to think about it is that all government, or the common denominator of all government, is self-government, right?
Yep.
And that's exactly what you're saying. And the better that we can lead ourselves, the better we're going to lead others. But
Correct.
if we can't provide for one, how can we provide for five, let alone 500?
Exactly right.
And I think that's a really, really good thing. And that, And just because we're focusing on better governing ourselves, being better self-disciplined, providing for ourselves better, developing ourselves, cultivating ourselves, cultivating our capacities and our potentials and our skills, going hard after that, that's not at odds with helping other people. That's actually one of the best things we can do to the world. One thing we've talked about in previous episodes here is this sense of like we have a moral obligation to be successful.
Right.
And I think successful isn't necessarily a particular dollar amount or sign.
Correct.
But it is about maximizing our skills and gifts and talents and abilities in this world, and employing them in service to the world around us.
Correct.
When we do that, it's a blessing not only to ourselves but to our families and to the world around us. When we don't do that, we're robbing ourselves, our families, and the world around us. And I don't think there's this middle ground. You're either moving in one direction where you're becoming better every day, like you're saying, or you're becoming worse every day. I'm a big C.S. Lewis guy.
Oh, okay.
And he talks about that, like, our lives, are ultimately a culmination of the choices that we're making. And the way that he says it, to paraphrase it, is we're either becoming a creature more beautiful and glorious than we could have ever imagined, or becoming something more horrific beyond our wildest imagination. Right? And it's one or the other, and it has to do with, and today, like, we make one small choice, right? And it's like, well, I'm fine. I look in the mirror, I'm fine. I'm not necessarily more beautiful, I'm not necessarily more horrific, it's fine, right? And tomorrow, I'm not necessarily more, 30 years from now, it's like, oh my gosh. Who have I become? What have I become?
Yeah,
right?
I can escalate and get.
Yeah, and that's exactly what you're saying. It's good. I think, and again, this sounds weird to say, just because I think of a lot of maybe the straw men that are floating around in our day and age. Mm-hmm. But you have to, in a sense, put yourself first.
Right.
And from the perspective of, if you're not, like, think about it. If you didn't ever feed yourself, and you're just like, well, I should give my plate to my kids because I'm supposed to be sacrificing my life for them, and you're going to die, right?
Yeah.
And then guess what?
The basic needs.
They're not going to have a dad there to provide for their, to actually give them the food.
Choice you made.
Now look what you've done, right? And there's a way that we can spin this idea of like self-sacrifice or selflessness that's actually incredibly selfish. Yeah, and so I love that. I love that idea of waking up with the end of your bed every day. The reason you can do that is because there's real hope, right? And that's huge. That's awesome, man.
All right, I want to know, who's next? Who do you want to hear on what not to do? Which entrepreneur, which leader, which public figure in your network do you want to hear on the show? Maybe it's you. Maybe you need to be here. So let's connect me with whomever, and we'll sit down for coffee, a beer, or even a cigar, and together equip the world for success.
All right, man. So I'm curious.
All right.
As you're looking back over the course of your career and life, you've had some great successes. You've crushed along the way. It's awesome to see. It's exciting to see.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't have done that if you did everything wrong, right?
Of course, right.
Now, this is a podcast where we unashamedly lean into some failures, help others, help equip others for success. But I always think it's really important to start with, hey, what are some of the things that you actually did do right?
Sure.
And so as you're looking back, man, what are a few things that kind of rise at the top of mind of decisions, choices you made that were really right?
Yeah. I think it comes down to, I mentioned, kind of being afraid, to tell my dad, right, hey, I'm going to go down this route.
Yeah.
Right, and I learned that I can't be afraid anymore. Right, so, when I told my dad this is what I'm doing, I realized he was a little more open than I thought he was going to be, So I think the things that I've done right along the way have always led me to say, I can't be scared. I can't be scared of this. I can't be scared of that. I can't, I gotta do something. I need to reach out to somebody. I need to talk to somebody, So I think that that has been one of the major things was that, hey, somebody's still, even to this day, they'll say, well, I don't know, they're kind of being wishy-washy. It's like, just pick up the phone and call. I'll do it right now. Pick up the phone and just do it, right? So being actionable, doing that kind of stuff. So along the way, again, just not being afraid and making those decisions to just, we're going to talk to this person, we're going to go out, we're going to network, we're going to cold call, we're going to do this. Not being afraid to do things. I think that is one of the things that drives me. and helps me along the way that I know that I'm doing right. But on the flip side too, it could be a bad thing. There have been a couple of times that has kind of burned me as well too. Wanting to open a new location or do this, do that. But for the most part, like I see that as more of a positive thing. That it's done more in terms of my growth, not only as a person but also with the organization.
Yeah.
Being able to not be afraid and just make those decisions.
Yeah, it's game theory optimization.
Correct.
For life.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
What's the upside? What's the downside? There's a lot more upside to not being afraid than there is downside.
Correct.
Doesn't mean there isn't any downside, right? Sometimes we could stand to use a healthy dose of fear, certain things. But at the same time, I think, Lewis talks about how fortitude or courage is all of the virtues in action, embodied. Yep. It's kind of like the apex of everything. It's like when all the virtues come together and meet. And I think we're lacking that a lot in our day and age.
Yeah.
And so it's great to see that type of thing. Like no fear. Yeah.
Yep.
Real risk. There's real failure. There's real ways in which we can bomb this whole thing.
Right.
But man, we stand so much more to gain. One example that I've used in the past is it's like we spend so much of our lives just crawling on the floor.
Sure, yeah. Oh my gosh, good way to put it.
If we would just stand up and see that there's a cosmos to be conquered.
Right, yeah.
Like there's so much more upside than there is downside, right? So
top of the hill, being able to see it all. And, yeah, now I know what you're talking about.
What else, man? You weren't afraid? What else did you do right?
So, going along those same lines, reaching out partnerships. Cool. Partnerships and I'm not talking like the partnership for, who co-founded the organization that we have. I'm talking about who are the people that we need to strategically align ourselves with, right? From the standpoint of, who are the equipment vendors, who are the, the telecom companies, right? Who are the guys that we got to talk to build, what we call in the industry a stack, right? Yeah. That stack is, here's the stuff that we know is going to work really well. We could create different tiers, stuff like that, right? But being able to actually just stand back and look at it in terms of a holistic view of, we can't put people into specific categories saying your company's always going to fall here, you're going to fall here, you're going to fall here, but being able to strategically find the right vendors, the right distributors, all that kind of stuff, right? And say that if we have any of these cases across the spectrum, we're going to be able to cover that, right? We're going to be able to build that stack for that company. And then also what we're going to do is we can customize it to the point of, when I mentioned IoT stuff, we had delivered, like 70 different temp probes, GPS units to refrigerated units or reefer trucks, right? And what we did was we teamed up in terms of creating customized galvanized steel conduit for the IoT devices, customized with the GPS companies. Like we can do it all. Yeah. But being able to do that, that's something that, again, couldn't have been done if we didn't strategically set out to partner with certain companies, right? So I think that's a big thing, is finding the people that, not only individuals that you can trust, but also companies and organizations that you can really confide in, right? And the cool part is they're going to open up with you, you're going to open up with them. And then that's when you get to the point of, guys, we can truly help people. We can conquer all, right? So one of the things that I just love is when somebody says, Lewis, I don't know if we can do this, or if, I don't know if anybody's done this before. Can you guys do this? Like, I love that, right? It just really makes me excited. And if we can't do it, we're going to bring in the partnership, right? Yeah. And those folks. So, again, it goes back to, finding the right partners, finding the right people to trust. It's something that I've done right, and I've also done wrong. But, for the most part, I feel like that's been a positive, is finding the right companies and going through who you can trust.
Yeah, that's awesome. It reminds me of the quote, if you want to go fast, go by yourself.
Yep.
If you want to go far, go with others. Right?
Correct.
And I love the optimism that's like bursting through, someone coming to you. And it's funny because you said Lewis, and I'm calling you Louise. Right?
Yeah. I sometimes resort to that, Because I say Luis, and they're like, who is that?
Right.
Yeah. So my family introduced me as Luis, and they're like, my friends will look at me like, or, other people look at me like,
I've been calling you, right?
Lewis was your name. And they'll ask me afterwards, like, hey, dude, I'm sorry if I've been, calling you by your wrong name.
I don't even know who you are.
Yeah, right? I don't know you anymore. You don't even have the same name.
But I love, I love that, when someone comes to you and says, no one has ever done this before.
Yes.
Can you do it? And it's like, that gets your blood boiling in a good way.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
And I love that. And I think, so much of the world is in a sense unknown, and we're here to cultivate it, to conquer it.
Right.
Like, it's an exciting thing. Like, for instance, there was a day and an age in which everything that was needed to build a McDonald's was buried in the earth.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
And, that's crazy to think about.
And man brought that to be. They cultivated. They made metals.
Yep.
They made all this kind of stuff, and then they made ovens, and they made spatulas, and
Correct.
and architecture and designs. And here we can go get a Big Mac. We don't even think about the hundreds of thousands of people
Right, that it took.
that it took to make
The creativity
single
and
McDonald's, right? Throughout however many hundreds of years or millennia, and it's just amazing, man. So it's cool, and so I love that kind of optimism when someone says, no one has ever done this before. Can you do it?
Yep.
Because you flip that, and how many people in life say, well, that's never been done before. You can't do that. You can't make money doing this. You can't do that. And it's like, who says?
Right.
It's like, what? It's like, man, like, when did you give up on your dreams?
Yeah. You're
Sometime
exactly
between
right.
5 and 25 years old, right? Like, you ask any 5-year-old, like, they're going to go take over the world, right? And they got the tools to do it. Like, no one wants to sit in the room when you're 5 years old. You want to go conquer, right?
Correct.
And then, and somehow, some way, like, we've lost that, or it's been programmed or conditioned to be something else, and we wake up 25 years old, and maybe we're not happy with where we're at, or maybe maybe our mindset, right, is so small or limited or in this box to where someone comes to us with that and say, well, I guess it can't be done then, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy, man. So I love the optimism. It's great.
Yeah. A couple of other things I would say. Picking a lawyer early on, CPA, stuff like that,
Was
right?
that the poker days?
What's that?
Poker days?
Yeah.
Tease it right.
Yeah, I mean, document everything, right? So even the conversations you have with, internal employees, stuff like that as well, too, is document everything. And I don't just mean that as, the SOPs and, being able to scale your company because you've built that foundation, that infrastructure.
Yep.
Which that's another thing we did right. Spent a lot of time early on SOPs, building the process to be able to scale, right? But yeah, finding the right, group of people that can support your organization, from a lawyer to accountant, CPA, stuff like that. Just make sure that you reach out to those people, but also anything you're going to sign, anything in terms of something you're going to roll out paper-wise to employees, contractors, whatever it is, make sure you run that through your lawyer, right? So that's one thing that I highly recommend. Everybody always do, of course. Sometimes with smaller businesses, just in networking, people say, I can't afford it. If I run something through my lawyer every single time I create something, it's expensive. And then that's sad because that puts them at risk, right? We want to reduce the risk, and again, that's one of the things I would highly recommend. Something that we did right was everything's got to pass through a lawyer, period. Whatever's created, doesn't matter what it is, how big or small, we got to do it. So figuring out a way to have somebody, maybe, I know with us, we go through like a virtual attorney, so it's able to, cut the cost for us as well, too. The guy that I met actually at UW-Madison became a lawyer, and that's who we go through, right? So by not having the brick and mortar, he's able to cut us better deals, doing everything virtual, which is awesome. So,
which is amazing. Yeah.
That you're able to do that now. Yeah.
Virtual attorney.
Yep.
All right, man. So you wouldn't be here on the show if you didn't have any failures to share, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely, right?
So I'm curious, man, same thing, as you're looking back over the course of your life, and you alluded to some stuff earlier, but, what's 1, 2, 3 things that kind of come to the top of your mind? I'm like, man, this was if I could have that one back, this is a mistake, and you would gladly caution someone else from making the same decision.
Sure.
Yeah. Tell us what not to do, Luis.
All right, what not to do? Trust goes a long way.
Yeah.
Early on, I guess I have this thing about, I typically try to trust people right away. If I just met you, whatever it is, you have my trust first, right? Until you break that trust, I'm going to trust you. And I feel like that one has, bit me in the butt a couple of times as well, too, of you have these people in the entrepreneurial community when you first start out, too, is, hey, we work together, whatever else, or, hey, I heard about you, this is awesome, I have these ideas, how can we partner together, right? And you have all these people coming out of the woodwork saying, how can we partner? How can I work for you, right? I got these ideas. And trusting them, one, it takes time because you're going to take time away from your business to hopefully get something, meaningful and grow, whatever else, right? So you got to be careful with, the time and trust, all right? And this is one of the things the first thing I would say to anybody, time and trust, right? Who do you bring in, right? My brother Henry would always tell me, you are the average of, the 5 people that are closest to you. Yep. I heard that back in high school,
That's
right?
a good brother.
Right? I heard that back in high school as well, right? Who do you hang out with, right? Does it define you or not? But, choosing the wrong people, I guess, number one, to be around, especially to trust your idea. I mean, you're taking your whole creation, stuff that you truly believe in and want to do for the rest of your life, and hopefully pass down to your children, right, and your children's children. You're going to take all of that and put that at risk, by bringing somebody in, whether it's a partner or just somebody that's going to be working with you, right? And that's kind of scary to know that I need to be able to trust all these people. And early on, that's bit me in the butt, because I did think that I could trust some people, and unfortunately, you can't trust your idea to everybody.
Yeah. So you're saying you're not saying don't trust anyone, but you are
Correct.
saying don't. How would you phrase it?
Yeah.
In a don't do this type of way.
Yep. So don't jump into things too quickly.
Okay.
Is what I'm going to say. So
and that's more than just people.
Correct.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So get to know, those you're going to work with, the things you're doing, the vendors, whatever it is. Go through that. Don't spend years, of course, trying to weed things out, but do a little bit better in that process. Yes, we all have to take a leap of faith sometimes, but just be careful with those that you want to get into business with, or and again, that comes into multiple different things. So
all across life,
right?
And it really has to do with exactly what you said. I mean, oftentimes our first impressions, our first takes can be accurate, and they can be really inaccurate,
Yep.
right? And sometimes time just brings things to surface, and then you think you're more aligned than what you are, and that could be true for a spouse, a potential spouse, right? You're dating someone, you're seeing someone. We can get married forever, right?
Right.
And so you get married after 3 weeks of knowing the person, and it could be the greatest thing you've ever done in your world, or it could be the worst thing you've ever done, right? Same true with business partnerships, or even like you're saying, vendors, etc. There's risk in any relationship, and that's inescapable. But we want to mitigate that, and we want to make calculated risks or measurements, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And just like in any relationship, you only can know so much before you are actually committed, right?
Yep.
And you're saying, and maybe even drawing from your lens as a researcher.
Yeah.
Just gather as much as you can first, right, before you make a decision, before you sign the line, all that kind of stuff, and just know what you're getting into.
Right.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I think one of the other things as well too is not finding the balance. Losing yourself. Just be careful. With what not to do there. Don't, I guess, get lost in just one thing in your life, right? You can become very passionate, but that can also, destroy you. Like we had mentioned about, finding or working at you first, right? Finding that happiness in what you're doing, in life, right? Whatever that is that truly defines happiness for you. I think, if I would have found that sooner, I kept chasing other things, but I think that's something that I wish I would have done differently. And finding, Molly, my significant other as well, too, it's like she balances me very, very well. Where I'm not good at some stuff, she is, right? So, finding that significant other, like, she really became my rock as well, too, that I can confide in, ask questions and stuff like that as well. And, if I didn't have her in my life, I don't know if I'd be able to be as balanced as I am, because I do get very excited, very passionate about stuff, right? And, there has to be something that pulls me down sometimes, not in a bad way. But she is that balance that helps me in my life. So
don't get lost in one thing. And sometimes you hear people say something completely different. Saying, "Hey, you should only focus on one thing." And so maybe distinguish what you mean by what, or maybe help us understand what does it look like to get lost in one thing.
Sure. Okay. So
you're familiar with Gary Keller's book, The One Thing?
No.
Great book, all about people sometimes when they're going after something in life, they're a mile wide and an inch deep.
Oh, yeah.
They never make a lot of traction or anything because they're trying to do so many things, and so the idea of just, hey, whatever that one thing is, go all in on it. And it seems like you're not saying that, but someone could easily confuse it.
Correct.
And so why don't you clarify, what does it look like when you say don't get lost in one thing? What does that actually look like?
Yep. So we'll go back into, my poker days. And, I wanted to be the best.
Yeah.
Right? I had to, because to me it was, the skill game, the strategic, moves that you would make, right? Yeah. Position, meant everything, all that kind of stuff. How can I outplay this person, right? I needed to win. I was in chess club. I did all that kind of stuff back in the day, right? I loved sports. I broke my leg playing soccer back in the day too, and I was always very competitive. So even in the sales, like, just came to be like it's just a natural thing that I have, I guess.
I will crush you.
Right? Our family is very competitive. We have cooking competitions, you name it. It's crazy. Anyway, so like competitiveness, like, it drove me to get lost into that one thing, right? I had to be the best. I had to study. I had to do this, right? I was getting lost. I stopped hanging out with friends at one point in time as well, too. I almost became a hermit because I needed to study, get better, perfect my game, all that kind of stuff, right? To the point that I wasn't taking care of myself.
Yep.
I was not doing things that were healthy. Again, that went back to that whole thing of I needed to make sure I found balance in my life. I needed to help the community. All the things that I grew up with, I got lost in following this one thing.
Yeah.
Right? So, and I would just stress caution. Like, you can be very passionate about something, but you don't find that balance in your life. Find the happiness, right? It's what you got to do. Because you go down the wrong path, like you can get lost. Like you said earlier, right? 30 years down the road, you're at this place. Well, shoot, I love this person, or I love this, I love that. It's all gone now, right? Because that's what I chose to do.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. It's just, cautionary tale to, you can love certain things and follow down certain paths, but don't get to the point where you're forsaking everything else in life.
Yeah.
Find that balance and happiness.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, there's a way that we want to go all in on our one thing, whatever our work is, or calling the thing that we're giving ourselves to.
Correct.
But not to where that thing destroys us.
Exactly, yep.
And that's good. And yeah, that's good. I think we can all be vulnerable to that. And sometimes going all in on it can create these blinders, which in a sense, sometimes we need, but then also can work against us if we don't see the peripheral. Right. If we can't get outside of ourselves and objectively look at how things are going and objectively assess. And to your point, that's the blessing of having a good spouse.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Good partners in business.
Yep.
Even a mentor that can say like, "Hey man, here's a mirror."
Right. Yeah.
just look at what's happening right now.
Yeah. And getting those to-do lists, right? Setting up your different quadrants of, is this a priority? Is this not a priority? Is this critical, mission critical, stuff like that? Yeah. Even with you, you sent me the calendar invite. That's perfect, right? Because you get lost in the work, and early on, Molly, so again, my significant other, Molly, she said, okay, well, you have your work hours, quote unquote, right? And then we have, our time together, right? And if we didn't have our time, and early on too, when we first started, she said, you need to make sure that you don't get lost in this, because she knows I am just so passionate, I'll keep going. I work nonstop to the point that I can go for probably like 3 days, just pumped up, doing this thing. I've taught myself, how to code in 3 different languages, like, I'll just do it. Yeah. And, all of a sudden there I am, just like, felt like one of those gamers where you have like all the code red next to you and you're just, you're going nuts and yeah. So
that's awesome, man. You got a third one for us?
Let's see, what are we still on the, what to do?
What not to do.
What not to do, sorry.
That's the name of the game, man.
Yeah, right? What not to do. Oh boy, let's see here. I'm just running a blank now because I keep thinking of the one I just said. I would say, so get financially in the right mindset, with the organization. When I mentioned the whole, get a lawyer, get the CPA, stuff like that as well, too, is knowing, like, what you want to do, how you're going to get there, strategically plan. That's something that I wish that, they would teach in school more. Right? Because in my day and age, they didn't teach you any financials. They really don't teach you anything, especially if you're going to be an entrepreneur and run a business, how things work. So you just got to be careful on that sense of, where do you want to put money? With our partners, they wanted to, take all the money out of the account, right? Oh, pay me, we get X amount of dollars. Holy crap, I've never made this kind of money in my life before, right? So they don't look at it as a business, like this is where we're going to go, this is how we get there financially to reinvest in the business. So, when you're having the discussions of we need to set aside, certain percentage each month, stuff like that, and you're looking for a way to grow, well, shoot, you have people that are going to outvote you saying, no, let's drain all the money out of the account, let's, pay ourselves and have a good time, let's not grow the business. Like, that mindset, that's crazy to think about, but being able to figure out with somebody and actually sit down and say, this is where we want to go in 1 year, 2 years, 3, 4, 5, and it comes down to that business plan, right? When we first launched, we got into it really too quickly. And, we didn't need a business plan at the time because we had this idea. We knew it was going to work, right? It's crazy how we just operated. And so we just quickly signed up. We said, okay, all right, cool. First month we made money. We never lost money since we started, which is crazy to think about. But you know what? We didn't know, at least in the terms of the partnership until now, we didn't know really how to financially make sure that our business was going to be sustainable so that we always had the money coming in and stuff like that. So I would caution on that portion is know what you're going to do, know how you're going to reinvest in the company, whether it's technology, into colleagues, coworkers, expansion, whatever it is. Have that financial plan in place, and if you don't know what to do, find somebody that can help you, right? Whether it's an accountant, CPA, banker, whatever it is, mentorship, startup hubs, whatever it is, get out there. Right? Find that way of how can I actually succeed and grow this business.
So how would you say that in a don't do this way?
Sorry, in a don't do this way. Don't think that you can do everything by yourself, especially when it comes to the financial portion. Don't be afraid to seek help. Don't be afraid to ask. And I think that was something where early on we tried to just talk to one another and thought we could figure it out ourselves. Yeah. We were too afraid to ask others for help.
Yeah, it makes us look better, right?
Correct. Yep.
And it kind of messes with our Facebook face, right? Our Instagram image and and so not for you guys it was finances, but for a company it could be something else. Maybe it could be sales. Like we've got a great product. How do we actually sell this thing, right? Or whatever it might be. And you're saying don't be afraid to ask for help wherever you actually need it.
Well, it is one of my main goals to give you more in use value than what I take from you in cash value. And so, man, I love that this podcast is for free. And I really hope that you are finding just incredible value. Who knows, maybe in one of these episodes, you'll take an idea that will be worth $1 million to you. And that's so awesome. If you believe in this and what we're doing here and you'd like to give, you can go to patreon.com/whatnotttodo and you can give according to your heart's desire. But seriously, every little bit helps in our mission to equip the world for success. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and there's so many good resources. Obviously here in Green Bay, but wherever you're at, and it's about just being aware and doing the research.
Exactly. Doing the research. Don't be afraid to ask.
Yeah.
Be humbled. Stuff like that as well. But
yeah, so good, man. So imagine this. Like, let's say you had a guy that was approached you on LinkedIn.
Yep.
And said, hey, is it Louis or Louise?
Yeah, right.
I've been following your work.
LEW.
I've been following your work, and man, I could really see myself doing what you're doing someday.
Sure.
Can I buy you a cup of coffee, and could you just, can I hear a bit of your story and kind of, could you help me kind of maybe get started on a path or direction?
Yeah.
And you'd say, yeah, sure, that'd be great. How would you go and counsel him, assuming that you don't want him to needlessly suffer? You're going to probably, how would you counsel him to avoid some of the mistakes that you've made?
Sure.
Or think about this, how would you counsel a younger Luis? Right? If you could go back 10, 20 years, what advice might you give to younger Luis to avoid some of the failures you made along the way?
Well, don't be afraid of failure.
Yeah, okay.
That's number one. Can't be afraid of failure. I mean, we're going to fail more until we find that thing that's going to help us succeed, right? And it's going to get us to that success. So don't be afraid to fail, man. We're all going to fail at some point in time, right? And don't say that, the failure is, oh my gosh, my dream's over. What am I going to do with myself?
Yeah.
It's natural. It's going to happen. But you know what? Use that as a learning experience, right?
Yeah.
We talk about challenges in life, stuff like that, and use that as the stepping stone to build yourself up or, recreate that idea, stuff like that. So that's one of the things that I would say. But quite honestly, if I was approached by an earlier me, I would say before anything, number one, where is this person in life, right? Did they already start a business? Did they not? I would number one say, what are you happy about? Like, what drives you? What is your happiness? I don't really care what you're doing or what product you're going to sell or anything else. Like, I want to know who you are as a person. What drives you? Like you had asked me. I mean, those are the perfect questions, and that's why I love what you're doing, is because you're getting down to the root of what got me to here, right?
Yeah.
And what is it that we can, duplicate and replicate with others as well. You know, sometimes it could take just one podcast for somebody to realize, holy this is $1 million idea. Like, this is what's going to drive me, right?
Yeah.
And it might not be, a certain product or something that I think, might be cool for data analytics or AI or whatever it is. Like, it could be something as simple as go find your happiness, right? Here's a book to read. Steve Jobs, that's one of the things he always talked about was these are my top 10 or here are some books that I recommend, right? Read, get that knowledge in you before you do anything else. Find the balance and find happiness, right? Because without it, you're not going to go far in life. And I hate to say it like that, but what I mean is, like, you're not going to find true happiness, just chasing down the wrong things, all that kind of stuff. So
yeah, you'll be flooring the gas with the while the car's in park, right?
Correct. Yep.
And you won't be going anywhere, right? You'll feel like but you're just going to be in rubber.
Correct. And that's what I noticed too with so this isn't really my first startup. I've helped with other things as well too. But that's, common thing that I see is that people will all of a sudden see money and they're like, holy crap, I can make more and more and more. And they keep buying things and doing all this stuff that makes them think that they're happy. But when it comes down to the foundation, like, they're just not happy in life. And that's what I see that, even traveling around talking to other entrepreneurs, that seems to be what is a killer of a lot of stuff as well.
Yeah, one thing that advice was given to me some years ago, and that's been more and more like reaffirmed or validated through these conversations is, look, what are you good at? What do you enjoy?
Right.
And what are your economic opportunities? Yeah. And where those three things can align, the closer those three things align, it's going to be a sweet spot as far as a sense of fulfillment, and if you want to say happiness in your work, right? Because no matter what you're doing, there could be small tasks, big tasks, things that we don't necessarily on a micro level really enjoy doing those things, but on a macro level we love what we're about, we love the mission, we believe in it, and it'll keep us up at 2 a.m. getting it done because we want to be.
Exactly.
Right? Not because we love this particular task, and this is the source of our happiness is in me editing a audio for a podcast. Like, no, but I believe in what I'm doing, you believe in what you're doing, and we enjoy engaging in that work.
Correct.
It's not drudgery to us, even though it's not our favorite task. And so for people to find that sweet spot is really, really important. That's a part of my story is I didn't know that for years, and I was, because you hear things like don't hear people like, hey, well, go follow your passions, and then the other people say, don't follow your passions, go work your job, And I think there's a bit of a middle ground there as far as like, let's understand what's being said, what's not being said. And I think a better way to say it is just, again, what are you good at, what do you enjoy, and what are your economic opportunities? Yes. And the more that those three things can align, great. If you're in a position right now, and you're and you're making money, and you have a skill at it, but you don't necessarily enjoy it, well, a few questions to ask yourself. Are you all in, right? Maybe you don't enjoy it because you're not all in, right? And if you really sought to just be, wax the floor with the reigning sales guys, like, maybe you'd actually find out that you really enjoy it. Or at least then you can recognize that and create a plan to get to where you want to be, right?
Exactly.
And so I think it's a really important, I guess for me, that's just a helpful framework through which to think. What are you good at? What do you enjoy? And what are your economic opportunities?
Exactly.
And then don't be afraid to fail. Right?
Yeah, that's huge. Yeah. The other thing to add on top of that too is, obscurity is the killer of great ideas. Right? And what I mean by that is that, you spend all this time creating something that you think is going to change the world. Yeah. Right? But if nobody knows about your idea, you're getting lost into, what you're creating and all this stuff, and you trust the process, right? You're creating that process to scale and do all these amazing things. If you don't get that idea out there, you don't market, you don't do things, you don't spread the word, you don't network, all these different things that could hinder that great idea from changing the world. Well, shoot, nobody's going to know you. You're going to be out of business. You have no sales team. Well, how are you going to get sales? How are you going to market, right? Right. So
it doesn't matter how good of an idea you have, or
correct,
even a product. If no one knows about it, who cares, right? That's awesome, man. Yeah, that's so good stuff. I feel like we just riff on this stuff for hours. There's so much there. Yeah.
Which is a great thing about your platform.
Yeah. We don't have time with it. Yep. And I know where we can find more coffee. So.
Yeah, it's good. I've never been here before. This is actually really awesome.
Yeah, our listeners, we got refills. I switched to a quad Americano, so 4 shots. And that's kind of Kyle style. Like, I don't drink it for the caffeine. I actually like the strong coffee flavor and taste. I like my coffee so I can float a pistol, you know. And Luis switched up to a Mexican hot chocolate, making it dance a little bit. So
it's great.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Not too many places carry Mexican hot chocolate, so I was excited when I saw that.
Yeah. Well, no, so, Copper State does a great job. Copper Rock is the coffee company here.
Okay.
And the owners of Copper State are related to the owners of Copper Rock. So they hosted a house here, which is really cool. But the original location is down in College Avenue in Appleton.
Yeah, okay. So across from not the Radisson Red Lion or whatever it is now, Paper Valley?
Yep, over there, next to the Copper Leaf Hotel.
Okay.
Which is cool. Right. So, but great guys, great family, awesome. Well, cool, man. So life, going through life, we are inescapably influenced, inescapably shaped, impacted, whether we realize it or not. It happens both and, right? And I'm curious for you, man, who comes to mind as far as, of all the experiences, of all the people that have shaped you and influenced you in your life, and helped you to become who you are today, who's maybe that one person that if you took them out of the equation, you just wouldn't be anywhere where you are today?
Well, I mean, my dad. Honestly, number one. Like I said, I grew up with him. He really instilled a lot, in my beliefs. He helped shape me who I am. As a youngster, of course, like I mentioned, the Colombian Squires, Knights of Columbus, that, being involved, right? He always, went to all my games, in sports, was always there to support me. If you removed him from the equation, I don't think I'd be where I am today. Or maybe I would be, but it would have been a completely different path. So I think he would be the first person that really pops to mind.
Awesome. Is he still in Watoma?
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What, is that like an hour and a half out of there?
From here, hour and 45 minutes, I think, from here.
Oh, fuck. Okay,
hour and a half, something like that.
Yeah, I suppose.
Depends on how fast you drive or how slow you drive.
And it's not necessarily like a straight highway shot, right?
No, you got to drive down to Oshkosh and then cut over.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome, man. Yeah, it's. I love hearing that. Dads are so important.
I agree.
Yeah, they're very important.
I think other than that, one of the other things too, I mean, I mentioned Steve Jobs. I feel like a lot of people in the tech industry, they see Steve Jobs for multiple different things. And, there are the books, a couple of things he did early on when he flew out to China and said, I need this, right? This is the product I'm going to get. I'm going to find the partnerships, the vendors, all that kind of stuff as well. His state of mind, how he prepared himself for the day, that was really cool as well. So I think he did have a big impact on me. And one of the things that I always remember the most with what he would say was, people aren't always going to know what they want, right? They have no idea. When, he was creating the iPad and stuff like that, it's just revolutionary, right? The iPhone as well. So being able to create and not be afraid of that failure, I mean, that's something that he drove to do. He didn't care. He knew that I have this idea and I know it's going to change the world. And he did it. So I think, with him removed, there would be a lot of tech startups, a lot of individuals that may not be where they are today.
Yeah. It goes back to, if you think of it from like an investor's perspective, why would you want to invest in this thing, right?
Yep.
And how many people maybe miss the boat on investing in Apple?
Yeah, right.
And because, there was, from a quantitative perspective, it didn't make sense. Like there wasn't enough, there was too much risk for them.
Right.
But they were missing the whole qualitative aspect of it. There's similar things there too. It's like, when something has never been done before, we say, well, hey, I like the idea.
Yep.
It just seems way too risky.
Right.
And where's the market demand? And there's a way in which the market demand and testing and which we certainly should do, can actually have a double edge to it, where now it actually we can use it against ourselves to say, well, there's not enough market demand, and we can miss an incredible opportunity.
It's interesting, yeah.
There's stories like that with. I heard the story the other day about a guy that had an opportunity to do that met with a couple of guys about this technology. Like, hey, we're sitting in a restaurant, and guess what we could do? We could one guy could pay for the bill, and then we could pay him through our flip phones, right?
Right. Yeah.
And the guy said, hey, too much risk for me, not enough market demand, and that was PayPal, right?
Yeah.
And the guy had an opportunity to be an investor there, be an original founder, and opt out of it. And he would say, man, if I could have that one back,
Oh, yeah.
But how much you learn from that, and it's important in life that we see that, like just that idea of Steve Jobs. And I think one thing that you can take from him is when something's never been done before, holding that vision is really, really hard.
Right.
And helping people to see something greater that they've never seen before.
Correct. And I think that's something that for us, in creating the telecom side first and the IT side. I met with Gartner maybe a couple of weeks ago, and the person from Gartner was saying, I've never seen a hybrid like this before. You never see the telecom with IT meshed together in an MSP fashion, because you hear of the Tangos, the Caleros that do telecom expense management, that have the software and they roll stuff out, or you'll hear of like telecom brokers and master agents, but they don't have the IT side, or they might white label or go through another company, but it's still not. It's hard for them to work together, right? Things are still siloed, their systems don't work, so what we created was a cloud-based platform where you can do all that in one, right? You can go on there, keep track of all your assets, your telecom expenses, 1-click, 2-click, everything's paid through 100 different vendors, and then also you can place orders and everything through us, and we'll just manage it all. So one fluid motion, almost like a marketplace, if you will, online for somebody to do all of that, including the IT platform, right? So anybody that needs help desk support, whatever else, it's all built right in for you. That's something that hasn't been done before.
That's awesome.
So yeah, we're really excited to spread the word.
Gartner giving you a thumbs up?
They were, yeah. They also wanted us to pay a lot of money for their quote-unquote help.
For their thumbs up.
Yeah, right?
This thumbs up's going to cost you $600,000.
Yeah, right. So they were like, you know what, we might be able to create something new and have, a new magic quadrant, whatever else. We're like, yeah, because we kept asking them, where would we fall in? And they said, well, we don't know yet. So he's like, for X amount of dollars, we can actually, custom create something for you guys and, get your word out there and whatever else. It's like, well, so
I'll create.
Not to bash Gartner, they're cool guys, but
hey, I'll create a magic quadrant for $50,000.
Yeah, right. That was a lot more than that. They did give us just a straight up,
Oh, that's awesome. Well, yeah. Well, anyway, that's awesome. Kudos to you guys.
Thank you
For just obviously getting positive feedback. And, super exciting. I met with some guys from Opus Communications.
Oh, sure.
So they're doing like the brokerage side of things.
Actually, Chuck used to work underneath me. I was actually sales
nice.
manager.
Yeah. I had a cigar with Chuck yesterday, actually.
Okay.
At the time of this recording. And I graduated with Ryan, if you know Ryan Klein. So those guys are doing some cool things over there on the brokerage side of things. It makes sense.
Yep.
And I love what you guys are doing, innovating. You guys are even taking that a step further.
Correct.
And marrying so much more, which is just so cool. So.
Yep. So everything they do, I think we do as well. There are a lot of those that are popping up because the system. I mean, it's not a broken system. It is something that's needed, and especially nowadays, because of the changes in the digital world and things moving to the edge, that you have a lot of, again, IT folks that don't know what they can do.
Yeah.
So right now it's a huge boom that a lot of people, even like former AT&T workers, because they're a lot of companies are having kind of an axe to their employees. Those employees are now jumping into that kind of a space, and it's something that there aren't enough people to help right now. Yeah. So it's cool that they're able to start that, especially in this area. I know there's One Touch Networks and a few others that do something very similar to that as well. So it's nice. Not to say that it's flood in this area, but I like working with those kind of folks, right? Because it's something where we can all help, right? And that's something that I do like about Opus with Chuck as well too. He's very open to saying, all right, let's partner, right? If there's something we could think about and you could think about, like, let's totally work together to help people.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the abundance versus a scarcity mindset.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. If we're all in together to help other people, we don't have to feel like we're competing.
Correct.
There's a sense in which we can even partner with those that are doing something similar to what we're doing.
Yep.
And I think that's a much better way to go about business.
Oh, definitely.
Cool. That's awesome, man.
Well, I'm really excited to share with you that What Not to Do has been gaining traction and momentum and experiencing some early wins, which is super exciting and reminded me this show is about you, it's for you, and I couldn't do it without you. So thank you so much. If you're part of a company, if you own a company, and you think your message would be really, really relevant and valuable to the folks that are part of this community, entrepreneurs, leaders, public figures, and those aspiring as such, reach out to me. My contact info is in the show notes, and we can sit down and consider what it would look like to partner together in equipping the world for success.
All right, so not to hurt your feelings, but I could really care less about the best advice you've ever heard.
Yeah.
I'm curious, man, what's some of the worst advice that you either hear floating around these days or
Sure.
that you've been given sometime, somewhere along the way? just
All right.
just terrible advice.
Well, hey, you should hire me. Hey, you should grow. You should open up a location here. You should open up a location there. There are a lot of those, you should do this, that you get. And not just in networking, of course, too, but just like out of the blue, people just come up and say, hey, man, you should do this. Or, hey, I saw you you launched a business. This is really cool. Hey, I think you should do this. You know, all those shoulds. I'm going to just jumble those together.
Yeah. You got shit on a lot.
Oh, yeah, right. I should have a shirt that says something like that. But you get a lot of that. And I think that really happens to really everybody in this kind of, not just the tech industry, but really every entrepreneur, right? Everybody's going to come out of the woodwork. It's like you hear those people that have, the winning lottery ticket, right? They just won like $10 million or $1 billion. And what happens? People come out of the woodwork, right?
Yeah.
Hey, you should do this. Oh, hey, you should donate this and whatever else. And, is it trustworthy? Is it a good thing to do? Is it a fake scam? Like, what is this, right? Because there are a lot of those. But yeah, I think that's one of the things, those shoulds. You should do this, should do that. One of the other things, too, worst advice. Well, no, I guess that falls under the shoulds. Like, you should invest in this, or, hey, I have this opportunity. Even at the partner level, your partners will come in and be like, this was great, guys, but, hey, we should buy into this, or, hey, we should put some money towards that as well, too. And it's like, guys, we're just starting off. Let's not get into too much, right? People always have great ideas, right? They may not be the great ideas, but to every person, they feel like it is. And they may not have done the market research or looked into, whether or not, their product is something that's actually going to be a fit or even something that can be created.
Yeah.
But people just have these ideas, and they always feel like they are entitled to be listened to. And those people, like I said, they just pop out of the woodwork when they discover that you started a business. So.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Sometimes I think it can. Maybe it's because like they're trying to live vicariously through you.
Correct. Yeah.
And maybe they wish that they had taken some kind of risk or all that kind of stuff, or but they've just been too afraid. Maybe they've given up on their past dreams, and so by maybe giving you quote unquote advice makes them feel like that they're kind of satisfying a bit of that entrepreneurial itch that they have, But the other thing, I've heard it said that people that are closed-minded are some of the most open-mouthed people.
Right.
And it's just like in our day and age, the blessing that technology is also has created a platform for everyone to be a quote-unquote expert. Hey, you should do this. Hey, you should do that.
True. Yep.
And whatever compels people to shit on you.
Right. And the bad part is that takes time, right? But there are also some people that have great ideas.
Right.
That all of a sudden you're a little closed-minded because you've had these 20 other people approach you. Then this one person comes to you and it's like, here's another one, right? So I do try to keep an open mind there. But yeah, there's so many shoulds, and it goes into so many different things as well. So, but the shoulds.
That's good, yeah. And you can go so weary and so accustomed to having people tell you what you should do that you yourself don't want to become closed-minded, and maybe someone actually does,
Yep. So what I typically do is, if a person approaches me, and how my little spin that I put on there is, how committed are you to this, right? Or, hey, what if we do this? I think it was one of your other podcasts that mentioned, well, if you come in and you help us build this, right? Because this is your idea, I think it's great. If you come here, we'll give you, maybe a percentage of the company or something like that. You just pose a situation to them. Yeah. And all of a sudden they're like, ooh, I don't know if I can do that, right? I don't know. Let me go back to my secure job, right?
Commitment? You want me to be committed?
So you want me to front money and everything else, like, to help you do this and that? Yeah, it's crazy. So
put your money where your mouth is.
Right, exactly. And I think that's a better way to approach it versus just saying, no, whatever else. Like, because again, there's some people that have great ideas, right? But they're not willing to do anything.
Right. Yeah. And that's so true. I think generally in life it's a good thing, and there's a way you can do this in a good way and a bad way, but helping people to aspire to a sense of greater ownership, generally speaking, having skin in the game.
Right.
I guess. Have you ever read Nassim Taleb? Yeah. Highly recommend it. You'd love him. Okay. So he's got a series called the Black Swan series.
I know there's a movie, Black Swan.
He's a mathematician and some other things like that, but brilliant. And but a book he wrote called Skin in the Game. Another one he wrote called Anti-Fragile. And but great stuff. Probably would be up your alley.
Okay.
But he talks about that principle of having skin in the game, actually having a risk, right? And this kind of goes back to what we were saying earlier when I was sharing a little bit about my story off air. Does Kyle have skin in the game on Kyle, right? If I'm expecting someone else to come along and make an investment, have I made the investment, right?
Yeah.
And exactly what you said, someone else is, you're invested in your business, and someone else is coming along, you should do this. And it's like, great, how much do you want to invest, right?
Right, exactly, yeah.
How much skin do you have in the game, and using that as some way to kind of process whether or not the person is genuine, or maybe even how legitimate the quote-unquote advice is. Right?
Exactly, yeah. One of the other things, too, is this is probably every single person with a significant other or somebody close to them. When somebody tells you, well, don't tell her, don't tell him, right? They want you to do something. And it's like, oh, boy, all right, you want to go party or whatever it is, or it just doesn't matter really what it is, but like that. Just be open and honest. You have your significant other, you also have business partners, you have people that you're going to form relationships with, right? So don't hide things, just be very open. Lying is not good. So bad advice, don't tell people, don't listen to people that are trying to tell you to, keep secrets and all that kind of stuff as well. It's not gonna be good for both your personal relationship as well as business relationships.
Yeah, bad advice is don't tell anyone.
Right? Yeah.
Let's qualify that.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, man. Well, it's rush hour in every major city in the world, from Green Bay to Beijing, and billions of people stuck in a traffic jam, especially in Green Bay, because it's gets serious here.
Yep.
And they're all listening to What Not to Do in this episode with Luis Johannes, which is awesome. And once you know it, they look up out of their car and they see a billboard, and it's Luis's billboard.
Yep. There I am.
What message do they see? What message do you want the world to see?
I think it goes back to the one word: hope. I think that's what's needed with everybody really in the world. I just want them to know that there's hope. And for some people it might mean one thing, for others another. For me, I definitely know what that means. But I really hope that they see that message, and wherever they are in life, whatever they're doing, if they had a horrible day or a great day, knowing that there's hope in the world, right? Just maybe a call away, or maybe an ask away for a friend, family member, somebody, whatever it is. We're all connected nowadays in so many ways, and that can be a bad thing. But you know what? Through the darkest of times, there's always going to be a light on. And there is hope. So
it's awesome. Maybe you are in that traffic jam, you're listening to this, and you need to hear that, right? And that's one of the things I think that's really cool about this podcast, people sharing stories, is that something that you might say could radically alter the course of somebody's life forever, and you might never ever meet them, right?
Yep.
And I think we all need more of that, to know that, hey, it's worth getting up today. It's worth giving our all today, right? It's worth not worrying about tomorrow today, right? There's hope for today. Let's go all in today.
Yeah. I've, as a sales manager, leader, in the past as well, even with the business, you do have some people that, do need that inspiration sometimes, right? It is hard for them, whether it's, a family member, they're going through something, whatever it is, or, I've had, people approach me saying, I thought about killing myself last night. Even with, my significant other having cystic fibrosis, it's hard. It's hard. It's a struggle every single day to breathe, and having to spend half your day trying to take medications and do other stuff to be able to breathe, holy crap. That says a lot. This one person is going through that struggle. It's nuts. And, I hope that the message, whether it's a billboard, in person, or over the radio, knowing that, there's always going to be hope for you. So, in the business, world as well too. What we do, I mean, that's one of the things that we want to bring to businesses and organizations across the world, whether it's nonprofit or whatnot, is that there are options that can help you. There's still hope, right? You have, you've been hacked, cybersecurity, stuff like that. There's still hope. There's still things that we can do. I always recommend, preventive, of course, too, but there's always hope. Don't feel like you're alone in the world. Reach out to the mentors, reach out to the hubs, reach out to the entrepreneurs and networks. There's so many people there. And when I first moved to Green Bay, I felt alone, quite honestly. Even with starting the business, I felt like, hey, these are the only guys that I can talk to. Who are the people I can reach out to? Because, being really a displaced person here, I have no idea. Right, I started going through LinkedIn, like who's who, like click on, connect. Some people I would message, some not, but I was just trying to see, like, who can I talk to? And, when I met with even the Greater Green Bay Chamber, I had asked, how can I help the community? It wasn't how much does this cost or what's in it for me, but how can I help the community? Her answer was, well, by joining our community with Greater Green Bay, the money that they use for that is to help the community in programs and outreach and help the youth, all that kind of stuff as well. So I think that's really awesome. So like for us, hope is a big thing. The education piece, because like I mentioned to you before, there's so much misinformation. Even with the sales teams, like I know you mentioned Opus, and I mentioned a couple other organizations as well too. The one thing that I always stress is that make sure you know that the people you're talking to are qualified, right? So because there's so much misinformation on how the data, the science behind how things actually operate, it's easy for a salesperson or somebody to say that this is going to help you, it's going to do this, right? Well, if you truly look at how things are classified and how some of the science works behind the scenes, it's not actually going to be able to help you. You will run into a brick wall a year down the road, whatever it is. And I feel like for our business, we deal with a lot of people after the fact saying, hey, I was sold on this. This sucks, right? So it drives me every day, but there's always hope for a business and person. So that's my message today.
Yeah, I love it, man. I love it. All right, bonus round. 3 books that you think need to be on people's shelves and that they should really read sooner than later.
Sure.
As in, the longer that they put off reading this book, the worse off their life is going to be.
Okay, all right. So there are a lot of books that you can choose from. Right away I start to think about, how to work more efficiently, how to do this, how to do that. But I think, with what I'm saying here, my general message is it comes down to happiness. Before you can do anything else, find that happiness. And so there's a book called, I want to say Happiness Factory, Happiness Advantage is what it's called. It's a book that I found in Barnes and Noble's one day. Again, going through the business section, right, looking at what I can read, what's good. It caught my eye because it was so different than everything else. And what the book is, it talks about this professor at Harvard and how he was doing a study of it's a new type of psychology, almost like the power of positive thinking is really what it comes down to, of what separates these people from being really happy versus a lot of these other ones, right? These people that are getting straight A's, whatever else, and they're committing suicide, right? They're starting businesses, they're committing suicide, or they're just doing things that are just destructive in their life, So he goes through all of these interviews and talks about how the one thing that really breaks it down is the people that are the happiest the most aren't the ones that are saying, I need this promotion, I need to get better pay, or striving for that. What they do is they find just happiness in themselves. What that means again can vary, but finding balance in being able to do things for the community, doing this, doing that, truly like giving. Those people find that stability and can move forward. And it's crazy because you have a lot of influential speakers, right? Your Tony Robbins, those guys. And what do? They get you excited, they get you pumped up, but they also try to get down to your core, right? And truly find and pull out what makes you happy, what drives you, right? And, my brother Henry, again, going back to him, he's a fire walker, he's done all that kind of stuff. He said every time after he did a Tony Robbins, he would come back and he kept getting a promotion. And that's crazy to think about because you have the people that, yes, we're searching for promotion, whatever else, but it took something as simple as going to Tony Robbins or whatever it is, and just trying to extract that happiness. Like, what is my drive? Reset. Just reset and do that. So, Happiness Advantage is the one book I would first recommend. The second book would be Deus Caritas Est, God is Love. It was actually by Pope Benedict. It was his first encyclical. And what
It's Deo.
Deus Caritas Est. So translated in Latin, from Latin, it means God is Love. So Deus Caritas, Caritas, STEST. Anyway, so it means God is love, and what that it talks about is people use the word love a lot, right? In today's society, I feel it does get tossed around quite a bit. But what it gets down to is, again, almost along the lines of the happiness level of what is love, right? What can we find? What does it actually mean? Love, you hear love thy neighbor, all that kind of stuff, right, as well, too. And it goes down to just that very basic core level of, love in the world. What does that actually mean, right? Love yourself, love your neighbor, love God. I think it's an awesome read, and it makes you really start to think about things a little bit differently.
Cool.
So it goes back down to resetting, right? Once you find that love, you can go ahead and move forward.
Yeah.
Right. So I think it's just a very beautiful read.
That's awesome. We need more of moving from the our ivory towers of theory into how does this come out of our fingertips? How then shall we live type of thing, So
correct. Yep.
Cool.
And I think it's a really nice foundation to just, like I said, level set.
Awesome.
I think the third one, it's going to be hard. So probably move to, I'm thinking between like two different ones right now. And there's one, I'm forgetting the name of it, but it actually talks about, what's the innovator something or other, where like people that innovate, that create certain things will always have some sort of a fallacy because they're going to be the last ones to move on because they said, wow, I've created this is awesome. Well, you know what? Everybody's surpassing you. Can't remember the name of it, so I guess I'm going to skip that one. We're going to go to the business model generation, business model strategizer series. I think that one's a cool one. So on my whiteboard at the office, I actually have all the different spaces as well too to break it down, because I think it's an awesome thing. Is you learn about the traditional ways of business models, right? And then this new book, I can't remember what year it actually came out, but it rethinks things, right? It analyzes the Amazons and the whole model, right? The SaaS, how everybody's doing SaaS nowadays as well too, and really, disrupted, I think, the traditional business model. I think it's a great read, really, for anybody that's looking to create an idea or a business to get into. I know that there's a little bit of a online, there's a lot of online support in terms of forums, stuff like that, for that series as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I've paged that book at home. I have not actually given myself to a full dive in, but it's on my table of books to read.
Yeah, definitely recommend it.
So awesome. So cool. Man, Luis, this has been awesome. I feel like we could just chat for hours.
Oh, yeah, same here.
Yeah. It'd be, maybe next time we'll do it over cigars.
All right.
Guitars.
There we go. All right.
Go from there. Okay, so let's say people wanted to reach out with you.
Sure.
They wanted to get to know you. They wanted to buy you a cup of coffee. They want to pick your brain. They want to do business with you.
Okay.
Where can they find you? How can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so the easiest thing, LinkedIn is probably one of the best platforms.
That's how we connected.
It is. Yeah, that's right. So connect with me on LinkedIn. Send me a message. You're more than welcome to email me, of course.
Yeah.
Which I think are we able to put in somewhere? I guess.
Yeah. They'll be in the show notes. So what email do you want?
Yep. So we'll do. My email is LAJOHANNES. So LA Johannes, my last name, at Merivox, spelled M as in Mary, ERI, V as in Victor, OX.com. So that'll go right to me.
That sounds like a sweet stage name. L.A. Johannes.
Right. Well, my stage name back in the day.
Is it Johannes or Johannes?
Johannes.
I've been saying
so people
Johannes
say that both ways, though, because there's also a Johannes Park. Johannes.
It's a soft J.
It's a soft J, right? Yeah, Johannes. So, yeah.
It's awesome. Well, this has been such a blast. Thank you so much for being on the show.
You're welcome. Well, thank you for having me.
Such a great conversation with Luis. Just a blast getting to know him. Yeah, like mine in so many ways. Love it. I want to pause. 1 in 400 trillion. 1 in 400 trillion. Do you know what that stat is? You had a 1 in 400 trillion chance of being born. And here you are. I want to repeat that. To be born, it's a 1 in 400 trillion chance. Trillion with a T. Those are incredible odds. And yet here you are. I want you to think on that. And I want you to think on what that means, that you are here in this time, in this place, with your purpose. That's amazing. The world, amidst the circumstances in which we find ourselves, the world needs you. The world needs you. 1 in 400 trillion. And here you are. What are you good at? What do you enjoy doing? And what are your opportunities? And go and be great. All right, so let's recap what Luis told us not to do. First, don't jump into things too quickly. Don't jump into things too quickly. Right, so I'm all for going all in, and I'm all for making quick decisions, right, and changing them slowly. I think that's a good thing, but that's not at odds with doing your due diligence, not cutting corners, right? All those things would go into that advice as far as, hey, don't jump into things too quickly. Measure twice, cut once. If you haven't measured twice and you're going to go to cut, you're jumping into it too quickly, right? If you haven't, built out the plan, reverse engineered things, thought about with the end in mind, and you're just going to jump in. No, you're jumping in too quickly here. Don't just jump in and try to figure it out from there. Have a plan, right? And take the time to be able to work out that plan, write it down, and then jump in and execute it, right? Don't jump into things too quickly. Secondly, don't get lost in one thing. Don't get lost in one thing. And so this is not at odds with the advice that we should focus on one thing, right? But even in Gary Keller's book, The One Thing, which is fantastic, he gives you like 7 different areas that you can have one thing in. So you can have like 7 one things, right? What we don't want to do, and I think this is where Luis was getting at, was don't have this kind of tunnel vision where you ignore everything else at the expense of that actual main goal, main priority, your ultimate one thing, right? There's a way in which we can get lost in one thing and it actually ends up hurting us. And so I hope I clarified between those two things. Don't get so sucked into one thing. Know when, for instance, the law of diminishing returns comes into effect, right? And okay, you got to stop, right? You got to be done with it. You got to move on to the next thing, right? Be aware of that. Third, don't be afraid to ask for help. This is a hard one. It can be hard, right? It exposes vulnerabilities. It exposes maybe the ugly truth of things, and where we want help, we don't want to ask for it because, or I should say, where we need help, we don't want to ask for it because we don't want people to see the bad side. But hey, that's also a good thing to lean into those types of things. So don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be too prideful, right? Lean into that and get the help that you need wherever you need it. If it's with the business, like Luis was saying, make sure you got a financial strategy, a plan, etc. Make sure you have a plan for all different aspects of the business. For your human, intellectual, and financial capital, have a plan. And last but not least, don't be afraid of failure. Don't be afraid of failure. This is obviously an overarching theme of the podcast, and it's a timely message. Why? Because a lot of folks are finding themselves either without work, they're finding themselves at home, right? They're finding themselves with a shift and a change in what is normal for them. They're experiencing a new normal. And, it could be that, kind of like with what 9/11 did, and it really changed things afterwards. Like the world didn't go back to the same, at least for us here in the United States. This likely could have a very similar effect and we don't really know what that's going to be. But the world as we know it is changing, right? And a huge part of that is the opportunity, right? To be able to create, and the platform, the technology to be able to give that to the world. It's super exciting. And to see the way that, even right now as we speak, companies are transforming themselves, trying to set up remote meetings and a remote workforce, all that kind of stuff. They're really, really exciting. And if you are listening to this and you find yourself, at home and unsure of what to do, you start with these things. Start with what not to do in these situations. Don't be afraid of failure, right? Don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't get lost in one thing, and don't jump into things too quickly. So even these 4 points from this particular conversation with Luis, you could apply today, right? Are you, what are you good at? What do you enjoy doing? And what are your opportunities? Well, what's your basic skill? Like, where are you working? What's your knowledge? Is it programming? Is it childcare? Is it math? What is it? Okay, well, look what I'm doing with the podcast. Why couldn't you do that? Right? You have an iPhone, right? Of course, you got a computer, right? You can keep it really bare bones setup, and all the information is out there for you to be able to get going and do it and to learn, like, for free. Like, people will teach you how to do this for free, right? And you can start giving to the world and creating a new future for yourself that on the other side of this particular, national crisis, if you want to call it that, you could actually be in a much better position with new opportunities that you didn't even know it would have existed, yesterday or 2 weeks ago. How exciting is that, right? But don't be afraid to fail. Who cares about other people's opinions? Who cares about, someone who doesn't like your episode or gives you a negative review? Yeah, that stuff can, in a sense, not be fun to hear, but hey man, have tough skin and a soft heart. Let that stuff kind of bounce off you and go after that vision and that dream to impact people, to use your skills and your gifts, your abilities, to cultivate them to the best of your ability and unleash them in service to the world around you. That will yield the greatest blessing to yourself, to your family, and to the world. And in this time, right, in which you are here, you find yourself here in this time, 1 out of 400 trillion, you're here with your unique set of skills and abilities and desires and opportunities. Man, you can't afford not to seek those out, not to go all in right now, right? And so hear this. This is a call to you, whoever you are listening to this. I may never meet you. You may never have, any other idea who I am, but go. Who are you, right? What are you good at? What do you enjoy? What are your opportunities? And go all in. Even now, the world needs you. Now more than ever. If there's any way I can help you, even with podcasting, reach out to me. I would love to. If you want to bounce some ideas off of me, as far as using me as soundboard for maybe helping you to think through the things that you enjoy doing and the things that you're good at doing and opportunities and maybe the sweet spot where all three of those can align, I would love to. Like, shoot me a note. Let's get on the phone. Let's chat. We can hop on Zoom or whatever it might be and get face to face that way. And I would love to be able to be a sounding board for you any way that I can help you. And then you probably already aware of this, but there's so many folks out there that are already willing to do that same thing too. And they can be great resources. But there's no excuses. Take ownership and don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't get lost in one thing and don't jump into things too quickly. But right now, don't forget, the world needs you now more than ever. Well, thank you so much for listening. This podcast is about you. It's for you. I couldn't do it without you. If this has been impactful for you, share it with a friend. Give us a 5-star rating on whatever platform you listen on. That helps to get all these incredible, inspiring stories out. And if you're a company that you have, a relevant message, product, service that you think would be a sweet spot for this community of entrepreneurs, leaders, and public figures, reach out to me. Let's see how we can partner together and help to tell your story here in this community. Well, it's been said that good men learn from their own mistakes, but great men, they learn from the mistakes of others. So go and be great. We'll see you next time.